Chapter 11-19. Weave Dragon. Moon Dragon. 3 Evil Dragons. 5 Holy Dragons. 8 Elemental Dragons. 36 Gemstone Dragons. 54 Metal Dragons. 108 dragon-shaped stone sculptures revealed all the species of dragons in this world. Although dragons were not the most mystical creatures, dragons basically represented all the power and rules that this world needed to operate. The moon teleportation portal uses the magic array on the ground as the foundation and this dragon-shaped altar as the core. Only then can it really operate and travel between the moon and the moon. Brother, the content of this teleportation portal might be more extensive than Ichi imagined. Will take a lot of time. It's okay. I have enough time to wait. List was full of confidence. He had originally planned to obtain ancient treasures to support his dragon rearing. Now that he guessed that the moon dragon had infected the elves, he had a new understanding of how to break through the barrier. When the fire dragon Leo absorbed enough volcano super demon, it would be time for him and Leo to become a barrier knight. Once he succeeded, it would mean that he would master the rules of fire. When that time came, all the dragon knight in the legendary continent combined would not be a match for List. He would directly conquer all the empires and kingdoms in the legendary continent, purify the sea, and bring the Malfa continent under his rule. He would build an immortal foundation and let the name List Flame become the noblest title in this era. Ichi held the magic flashlight and kept looking at the details of each dragon in preparation for the dragon picture collection. List looked at the underground hall. The hall was empty. Other than the dragon-shaped stone sculptures and the altar, there were only the walls. When he focused his attention on the walls, he suddenly realized that the walls were not empty. There was a huge mural drawn on them. The mural was not painted. Instead, it was embossed so it was not obvious. The entire circular wall was a continuous mural. It was presented 360 degrees in a circle. There was a paragraph of moon language text at the end of the mural. Ichi, come here quickly. Study this mural. List called Ichi over. Ichi was very proficient in moon language. She quickly translated the moon language text. It was as if every paragraph was like a poem with a special rhythm and charm. At first, humans lived like beasts. Then they learned tools and etiquette. Growing up day by day thinking about the future. The great dragon awakened from the will of humans, believing that it was the continuation of order. When the will is shaken, the dragon disintegrates. Its bones and blood become spirits, and its soul becomes a dragon. The spirits become all things and the dragon becomes power. The divine dragon strengthens the origin, the evil dragon purifies the filth, the elemental dragon commands the atmosphere, the gem dragon embellishes space, and the metal dragon spreads resources. There are mana dragons that operate the weave, the laws of the sun and the moon. Magic is one of them. Sun Mafa and Moon Legend both use the magic dragon as their totems, growing and multiplying endlessly, changing the Big Dipper. The narration of the language of the moon came to an end, but it had a huge impact on List and Ichi. Although the language of the moon in the ancient times was somewhat awkward, it did not prevent them from understanding its meaning. List had many questions in an instant. The dragon was born from the will of humans? The great dragon disintegrated before there were elves and dragons? The mana dragon should be the weave dragon, the totem of the Moon Empire and Sun Empire? This is too mythical. Ichi's gaze shifted from the narration of the language of the moon to the mural, and she said thoughtfully, "Brother, maybe this story is true." List did not immediately pursue the matter. "Forget it, let's see what the mural is about." He and Ichi shone the flashlight together and looked down the mural clockwise from right to left. Such a complete mural was mainly about dragons, and humans were only a part of the symbols. At the beginning of the mural, there was a mana dragon emitting threads that looked like a spider's web. The threads connected many cities on the ground, and there were magicians floating above the cities releasing magic. There were also some dragons flying around the cities, and the atmosphere was very peaceful. One of the big cities had a moon floating above it, and another had a sun floating above it. But soon, 3 dragons began to attack humans. According to the carvings, they were the Shadow Dragon, the Cursed Dragon, and the Silent Dragon. So the next part of the mural showed humans defeating the 3 evil dragons with the help of other dragons, especially the Mana Dragon. The Silent Dragon died to the north of the 2 cities, the Cursed Dragon died in the ocean between the 2 cities, and the Shadow Dragon died around the city with the sun floating. The mural then entered a new era, seemingly polluted by the 3 evil dragons. The Sun City suffered heavy casualties and the sea suffered heavy casualties. Monsters crawled out of it. The Mana Dragon prepared to spit dragon's breath at the monsters in the sea, the extreme north, and the Sun City. The human magicians of the Moon City also seemed to be helping the Mana Dragon, but another group of Moon City magicians confronted it. Then this group of opponents joined forces with the 5 holy dragons and created a magic array on the top of a high mountain. The magic array rushed directly to the moon. After the Mana Dragon discovered it, it led a large number of gem dragons, elemental dragons, and metal dragons to besiege the 5 holy dragons. The Emerald Dragon, Invisible Dragon, Dusk Dragon, and Smoke Dragon were killed one after another, and only the Fairy Dragon seemed to have escaped to an unknown place. The magicians of the Moon City began to cheer for victory. But then a dragon was born on the moon, and it could be seen that it was the tentative moon dragon in the previous dragon-shaped stone carvings. The moon dragon flew out of the moon and flew over the Moon City. The Mana Dragon once again united many dragons and the magicians of the Moon City to face the moon dragon. At this point, the mural ended. This seems to be a story before the collapse of the Moon Empire. Do you understand it, Achi? List asked. Achi nodded. Brother, Achi understood the contents of the mural. Combined with the content of the poem described in the previous moon language, it is the ancient magicians who introduced the history of the origin of the world. Tell me what you figured out. Let's see if your understanding is the same as mine. Yes. Achi began to summarize with her understanding. After the birth of humans, dragons were born with the will of humans, but humans soon fell into war or other troubles. Their will began to waver and the dragons disintegrated. Then they disintegrated into elves and dragons to help humans. At this time, on the legendary continent and the Malfa continent, humans established 2 civilizations with the Mana Dragon as their totem and continued to develop magic. But soon after, the evil dragons began to invade. The Mana Dragon, many dragons, and humans joined forces to kill 3 evil dragons. But the monsters contaminated by the evil dragons began to run rampant. The Mana Dragon planned to clear the monsters. The Moon Empire's magicians were divided into 2 factions, one determined to clear the monsters, and the other seemed to want to protect the monsters. The protection faction obtained the help of the Holy Dragon, built a moon teleportation circle, and went to the moon. The Holy Dragon was then killed by the Mana Dragon, and only the Fairy Dragon escaped. Then the Moon Dragon was born and returned to this planet. So the Mana Dragon and the Moon Dragon, that is, the clearing faction and the protection faction, began to fight. She paused. Achi said again, the Moon Dragon must be dead, but its power was dispersed to all the elves, helping the elves to evolve. Maybe it was preparing to revive from the Elven King? The Mana Dragon was seriously injured. It should be the Weave Dragon that Brother and Achi met. It has been sleeping, causing the weave to shrink. The Moon Empire also perished in this battle. Chapter 11:20. Civilization collapsed. Then humans made a comeback in the treetops. Insect mycelium queen that scattered spores, fruit sprites that hung from the southeast branches, lactic acid-infected beasts that produced yogurt, human elves that called themselves druids, and mist fairies that blended in with the flowers and trees. With such a wonderful fantasy world, why didn't you invest in a new book? Arrangements. Lao Bai's new book from The Great Dragon is dead. Currently typing, please wait a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 11:21. The history that Achi summarized was similar to the history that List had concluded in his mind. It sounded inconceivable that dragons and elves were born from the will of humans, but when he thought about it carefully, it was all traceable. Elves could contract with humans, and as long as the teeth of elves touched human blood, the contract would be immediately successful. Although dragons would not simply contract with humans, the dragon tooth platform on the back of the dragon was born to be ridden by humans. It was simply a considerate artificial design. So, originally there was a big dragon in this world. After the big dragon died, there were so many colorful dragons and elves. He sighed with admiration, but he felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. Or rather, he felt that he had fallen from a great and honorable image to a big villain. According to the murals, the magic dragon was obviously on the side of justice. As the totem of the Moon Empire and the Sun Empire, it supported the magic civilization of humans. And the side of the Holy Dragon, who opened the moon teleportation array, played the role of the villain. Now, List nurtured the Smoke Dragon in his mind, which was equivalent to merging with the Smoke Dragon. Since the Smoke Dragon was the villain, then he was naturally the villain when he combined with the villain. What worried him even more was that the Mystic Dragon was sleeping. If it woke up, would it come looking for trouble again? Back then, it was the Magic Dragon that killed all the Holy Dragons. Except for the fairy dragon who ran away, the invisible dragon, emerald dragon, dusky dragon, and smoke dragon fell on the spot. Now, the reborn invisible dragon Bard has become my partner, and the smoke dragon is my incarnation. I can't wash away this villain role at all. He recalled the scene he saw with the time diamond. It was a pair of eyes that woke up from the void and stared at him. There was no doubt that it was the magic dragon's eyes. What's more, maybe the holy dragon was a dragon that broke through the barrier in the past, and it was only because it was killed that it fell to this level? Logically speaking, a holy dragon that could be named holy would definitely not be inferior to an evil dragon. Now, it could be confirmed that the cursed dragon was an existence that broke through the barrier, but the invisible dragon Bard did not even have the strength to fight an ordinary dragon head-on. Although Bard was not yet an adult, the strength it showed was indeed a little exaggerated. Compared to gemstone dragons, metal dragons, and elemental dragons of the same species, which can have multiple dragons, holy dragons and evil dragons seem to exist alone? He had noticed that there was a white iron dragon in both the Eagle Kingdom and the Iron and Steel Ridge Kingdom. However, the holy dragon and the evil dragon had never appeared before. Perhaps they're all existences that have broken through the barrier and begun to grasp the rules, so they've become unique dragons? In a short period of time he had already thought about many things. He quickly accepted that he might become the villain and face the threat of the demonic dragon in the future. Regardless of who was right and who was wrong in the ancient times, the Moon Empire and the Sun Empire had long perished. The magic civilization had also collapsed. There was no longer any point of reference. Back then, the magic dragon commanded the dragons to kill the holy dragon, but it was also heavily injured in the battle with the moon dragon. As long as I can break the barrier again and help my dragon master the laws of nature, then the formless dragon, the smoke dragon, the fire dragon, and so on at the barrier level can join forces and fight the magic dragon. Furthermore, he also thought of the scene brought by the time diamond. The future Chi once told him that if possible, it would be best for him to ride all the dragons that he could ride. I'm afraid this is the Twilight Dragon reminding me that sooner or later I will have to fight the magic dragon again? Regardless of whether it was true or not, he had to try his best to ride more dragons. As long as he rode all the dragons in the legendary continent and even the Malfa continent, and a few more dragons broke through the barrier, the magic dragon would not matter. This was no longer the era of the magic civilization. It was the era of the night, his era. Brother. A cheese call pulled List, who was fighting a battle of wits and courage with the magic dragon in his heart, back to reality. What's wrong? Did you find something new? Yes. A chi pulled List to a place on the mural and shone the magic light on the Sun City in the mural. Brother, the shadow dragon died here. Then she shone on another location, north of many cities. The silent dragon died here. List did not understand. A chi continued, in addition the cursed dragon died in the sea, and the 3 evil dragons polluted most of the creatures. But a chi has a doubt. Why did the holy dragon and some of the mages in the Moon City oppose the magic dragon to eliminate these polluted monsters? Yes, I also have doubts. Why would the holy dragon protect the polluted demons? He had seen those demons in the depths of the sea. They were very evil. Even after tens of thousands of years, they were still evil. The monsters polluted by the cursed dragon were rotten and confused, turning the sea into the devil's sea. In that case, it was imaginable how terrifying the monsters contaminated by the silent dragon and shadow dragon would be. Logically, there was no reason for the holy dragon to protect such monsters. Achi gave a guess. Achi is thinking, does the holy dragon think that the polluted monsters can be cured? Can they be cured? List immediately thought of Gulvig, the mermaid. When she was just polluted by the power of the cursed dragon, it was Achi who cured her. This makes sense. Maybe the magic dragon decided to use strong means, and the holy dragon used soft means? There is no clue to support Achi's view for the time being. Brother, you can put it aside for now. In fact, Achi has another doubt. Oh, tell me about it. That is, the will of humans gave birth to the dragons, and the dragons disintegrated and divided into countless elves and dragons. What about the intelligent races that are not humans? Sirens, mermaids, and those races that have been obliterated in the long river of history? What kind of magical creatures were born from their wills? Achi's doubts touched List deeply. That's right. They are all intelligent races. It doesn't make sense that only humans can give birth to dragons. By the way, do you think those pseudo-dragons were born from the will of other intelligent races? The sky behemoth Branch, the sea behemoth Leviathan, and the land behemoth were as majestic as dragons in legends. Unicorns and phoenixes were seen by List with his own eyes. They were no less magical than dragons. Although the giant lion Nimir was a little weak, its immortal skin and thick flesh were also magical. There were also the legendary Cerberus, Hydra, Chimera, the giant wolf Fenrir, the earth python, and the laden dragon. There were many magical things. If dragons and elves were born from the will of humans, then where did these pseudo-dragons come from? Achi is not sure if the pseudo-dragons were born from the will of intelligent races, but the murals obviously did not record this information. Instead, it was dominated by humans. It felt like they deliberately ignored other races and the existence of the pseudo-dragons. Especially the description of the moon language, it made history unclear. For example, the mermaids. In the era of the Moon Empire, the mermaids ruled the sea. Their influence was definitely no weaker than that of humans. There was no reason for the mermaids to go extinct after being polluted by the cursed dragon. Unfortunately, too much history had been covered up. There was no way to know more with just a mural. List rubbed Achi's head and signaled her not to be stubborn. There are only so many clues. It's useless to blindly think about it. When the moon teleportation circle is fixed, we can go to the moon to look for clues. Maybe the moon dragon was born from the will of the immigrants on the moon. Achi revealed a comfortable smile like a kitten. Okay, I'll listen to you. Chapter 11:22. Achi was prepared to put down most of her work and stay at Muragaoding Mountain to study the moon teleportation circle. List left first. He still had important work to do. After the alliance of the three countries, they became more and more aggressive, forcefully restricting the survival of the Fire Kingdom. And in order to prevent being killed by List alone, all the Dragon Knight began to form teams, at least 5 dragons to patrol in a group. Carl Low Violet, Lure Copper, Figo Iris, Alonso Cassiopeia, the blood of the 4 Dragon Knight was enough to alert them. List was quite helpless about this. If he could not fight a direct battle, he could not display his personal advantage in combat. And it was not realistic to launch a development order or a disciplinary order. Perhaps his actions had crossed the line. Now the Dragon Knight of the 3 countries no longer forbade killing ordinary knight. And if they really fought, the Fire Kingdom's orders of chivalry were not enough. In the battle between the Dragon Knight and the Dragon Knight, ordinary knight was too weak, so weak that the life and death of the country had no direct relationship with them. The biggest role of the knight class was to stabilize the country's logistics and accumulate a large amount of resources to supply the dragon's needs. List relied on the country's knight to manage the serfs' farming, and then turn in taxes and resources to exchange for various dragon needs to support his 10 dragons. Your Majesty, the smuggling routes to the Eagle Kingdom and the Iron and Steel Ridge Kingdom have been swept by the Dragon Knight of the 3 countries many times. Our fleet has the help of the Mermaid Lord, so we are not afraid of being swept, but the noble lords who are willing to engage in smuggling with us have all retreated. Promising to give up profits can't attract the noble lords? They have already given up a large part of the profits, but the deterrence of the Dragon Knight is too great. These noble lords have even disbanded their mercenary groups and don't dare to approach the coastline. Hearing this, List sighed. He still underestimated the deterrence of the Dragon Knight to ordinary people. This was not Earth. No matter how strict the law was, there would still be people who took risks. There was a powerful force in this world that was beyond imagination. It was very difficult for ordinary people to escape from such a force. What about the trade with the Yellowstone Kingdom? The trade is still going well, but with the suppression from the 3 kingdoms, Yellowstone Plain Kingdom should have received the news. The trade volume is increasing, but the turnover hasn't increased much. The First Minister of Finance, Paris Flame, handed over a report. List pushed it away. He couldn't be bothered to look at it. Feeling a little annoyed, the Yellowstone Plain Kingdom also started to take advantage of the situation. However, thinking about it, it was normal. The Fire Kingdom was currently in a difficult situation. It was a good opportunity to be exploited. Even a wolf would want to take a bite of such a big piece of meat or even take more bites. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Have the outer pavilion prepare a set of materials for the teleportation magic matrix. I want to build a new teleportation magic matrix." Your Majesty, where does the teleportation portal lead to? To a mercenary city-state. There were 3 empires in the legendary continent: the Unfalling Light Empire, the Blue Dragon Empire, and the Noble Frost Empire. There were also 11 kingdoms: the Iron and Steel Ridge, Eagle, Furnace Castle, Yellowstone Plain, Fallen Leaf, White Deer, Icefield, Bird of Paradise, Thunder Dragon Cliff, Devil's Snare, and the Kingdom of Grey Castle. There were also 3 major city-states. A city-state was a national system of small duchies. The 3 major city-states were the Freedom City-State, the Lost City-State, and the Mercenary City-State. Previously, there were mermaids patrolling the sea, blood servants locating everywhere, and the information collected by the caravan. The professional arcanists of the Royal Arcane Academy drew a complete map of the legendary continent. According to the map, the Noble Frost Empire was in the northern continent, the Unfalling Light Empire occupied the western continent, and the Blue Dragon Empire occupied the southern continent. The Icefield Kingdom was in the center of the continent, sandwiched between the three empires. The Mula Gauding Mountain was located at the junction of the Icefield, the Unfalling Light, and the Blue Dragon Empire, but not the Noble Frost Empire. In addition, the Noble Frost Empire and the Blue Dragon Empire were separated by the Icefield Kingdom, the Lost City-State, and the Freedom City-State. In the eastern part of the continent there were 11 major kingdoms. Among them, the Fallen Leaf Kingdom, the White Deer Kingdom, and the Noble Frost Empire were closely connected, and the center of the border between the three kingdoms was the Mercenary City-State. List's gaze was set on this place. He wanted to open a teleportation portal between the Fire Kingdom and the Mercenary City-State. The reason was simple. A city-state was a collection of small countries. They were loosely managed and suitable for trade. Another important reason was that many of the small countries that joined the mercenary city-states, or rather the dragon-rearing families that joined them, had been destroyed by the Noble Frost Empire. The Noble Frost Empire had been expanding since the era of kingdoms. In the thousands of years since it became an empire, many dragon-rearing families had been destroyed. Therefore, hatred had long been buried in the hearts of the rulers of the mercenary city-states. They were very suitable partners. After deciding to open a teleportation portal in the mercenary city-state, List did not stay in the Palace of Stars, Sun, and Moon for long. After hanging out with Paris and Emily for 2 days, he rode the invisible dragon Bard and rushed to the Calamity Volcanoes. He comforted the fire dragon Leo. Then he changed direction and flew from the Calamity Volcanoes to the mercenary city-state. After flying for 6 days, he finally arrived at the mercenary city-state. Because he had sent blood servants to settle in before, he knew more about the mercenary city-states. There were a total of 7 major cities here. They were controlled by 7 dragon-rearing families and raised 7 dragons. Even though the 7 families schemed against each other, they were of one mind when it came to defending against foreign enemies. However, the Noble Frost Empire had never stopped infiltrating the mercenary city-states. In the past 100 years, there had been 3 assassination attempts on the heads of dragon-rearing families. The common language here is quite messy. Some use the Chai language of the Noble Frost Empire, some use the Ya language of the Fallen Leaf Kingdom, some use the Deer language of the White Stag Kingdom, and some local dialects. But what does that have to do with me? I don't need to communicate with them. He rode Bard into the world outside of the material world and wandered around in search of natural nodes. He was getting more and more familiar with the power of fate. Soon he found an obvious natural node according to the guidance. After passing through, he appeared at the foot of a small, desolate mountain. According to the sextant, this small mountain was located southeast of the mercenary city-state. It was a hilly area that had yet to be developed. 300 kilometers to the north was a large city. 400 kilometers to the west was another large city. 600 kilometers to the southeast was the territory of the White Stag Kingdom. Very good. The location is not bad. I can build a teleportation formation here and establish a city in the Kingdom of Fire. List was very satisfied. He named this place Prairie Hills, taking the meaning of a single spark starting a prairie fire. This meant that the flames of the Kingdom of Fire would constantly radiate here. The future city was also named Prairie City. I'll choose the natural node of Reef City as the natural node of Blazing Island. This way I won't have to directly connect to the island, but I won't have to go through other places. The 2 natural nodes that needed to be connected were confirmed. Next, when the magic materials were ready, the teleportation formation between Prairie City and Reef City could be built. Ichi was already very familiar with controlling the teleportation formation. Setting up such a formation did not require much time. At the same time, the outer pavilion also started working. Once the teleportation formation was built, they would immediately start building Prairie City. They would also send trade personnel to the major factions of the mercenary city-states to negotiate with them. They were very busy. Another month passed and it was October in the blink of an eye. While comforting the great thorn sprite Ella, who was frowning because she could not find a dragon she liked, List suddenly had a thought and smiled. Very good. After Ethan, Aun has also found his dragon knight. Hippolyta, it's actually this little girl. Chapter 1123. Hippolyta, the Moonslayer indigenous girl. During the process of conquering the Moonslayer indigenous tribe, List saw her in a new light because she protected a few elves and sent her to the academy to learn the night course. After that, Hippolyta displayed outstanding talent and became a member of the first batch of Dragon Knight candidates. Because she was very beautiful, she was chosen as the Moonslayer flower by some busybodies. Among the 3 members of the first batch of Dragon Knight candidates, her talent was not outstanding. On the contrary, she might be slightly inferior to Nicholas Bellows and de Gaulle. De Gaulle was especially talented. List always felt that gray-mouthed Iron Dragon Aoun would most likely choose de Gaulle. Unexpectedly, after a period of training, Aoun actually chose Hippolyta. Aoun, bring Hippolyta to the Palace of Stars to see me. He communicated with Aoun using the Dragonheart code. Hippolyta had just ridden a dragon and had not learned how to communicate using the Dragonheart code. List, when are you going to ride a new dragon? Ella asked sullenly. It was also a greater elf. Even though its value was one of the top few greater elves due to the existence of the supplementary thorns, it was much lower than the man-eating tree dragon elf, Kali, the buckwheat dragon elf, Yadi, the phoenix parasol tree dragon elf, Ani, the pea dragon elf, Ike, and the algae dragon elf, Parker. Even the greater elf Wang Lian Kench was worth more than it. Kench could produce the dragon potion Water Dragon Water. In particular, when Ella met Parker once, she was ridiculed by the sharp-tongued Parker. She was so angry that her body trembled. Now, among List's greater elves, no one was more eager to evolve than Ella. It had always been her wish to be the elves' butler. She wanted to be stronger than all the other elves. Don't worry, Ella. Achi has successfully cultivated the soul fruit tree. Soon, the 4 mystifying dragon soul fruits will ripen. When that time comes, I will look for a new dragon to ride. You can choose as many dragons as you like. There will always be a dragon that suits you. You have to be faster. Don't worry. List was now waiting for Leo's return. He wanted to train with Leo and break through the barrier as soon as possible. When he became a barrier knight, it would be time for him to sweep across the legendary continent. By then, all the dragons in the legendary continent would become his mounts, regardless of whether they were dragons raised by the country or evil dragons in the wild. Actually, I'm a little worried. If there are too many dragons, it's impossible to complete the soul imprint and completely integrate with the dragons. The gemstone dragon and metal dragon were still fine. As long as he won the spiritual battle, they could slowly get used to each other. He had a long enough lifespan to get used to it. However, the elemental dragon, which was the evil dragon sequence, was more troublesome. Evil dragons had a strong resistance to mental integration, and their evil thoughts were always growing. This was especially true for adult elemental dragons. Their evil thoughts were probably already deeply rooted in them, and it was difficult to really eliminate them. As long as he broke free from the Dragon Knight suppression, the evil thoughts would crazily devour the mark. Ella didn't know what List was worried about, but it said murderously, List, if there is a dragon that is not honest, you kill it. List patted Ella's head hard. Why do you have so many strange ideas? Isn't it good to be a quiet elf? Wah. Jayla put her hands on her hips. Her original depression had been thrown aside. She flew into the air and said with great pride, Jayla wants to become the elf housekeeper of the Sun, Moon, and Stars Palace. No one can stop her. Not Carly, not Yadi, not even Parker. Then she landed on List's shoulder. List, take me to the mountain Copper Dragon Marta. I feel like I can get along with it a little longer. Or I can go see the Bronze Dragon Gnome. I haven't seen Gnome for long and I'm a little impatient. Otherwise I would have liked him. Ella, don't be impatient. Set your mind right. I believe that one day you will meet a dragon you like. List advised helplessly. Don't worry. In my heart, the position of the elf butler of the Palace of Stars will always be reserved for you. And I also believe that you will become a dragon elf sooner or later. Wah, you are the most special one. Do you understand? Perhaps ordinary dragons don't suit you at all. Then only the invisible dragon bard suits me, but I don't like the smell of him chewing smoke grass. Wah, that really makes Ella uncomfortable. Maybe it's not Bard. It's another dragon. Anyway, wait. He could only comfort himself. The power of fate could not illuminate the threads around Ella. This meant that at least in the short term she could not touch the opportunity to evolve. This could not be rushed. All right. Ella returned to her room with a little emotion. She needed to calm down. Orn and Hippolyta hurried to the Palace of Stars the next morning. List received the Moon Killer flower in his study. In just a few months, Hippolyta seemed to have matured a little. She was graceful and exuded a youthful aura unique to a young girl. Your Majesty. Dispense with the formalities. List smiled. How did it feel to ride a dragon? It was wonderful. I didn't sleep for a whole night. It felt so incredible. I thought I couldn't compete with Nicholas and Charles de Gaulle. Orn had always been cold to me. When he chose me, I felt like I was in a trance. Hippolyta said excitedly. Not only was Hippolyta surprised, but Liszt was also surprised. Just now, he had used the Dragon Heart code to carefully ask Orn. Orn's answer was that Hippolyta had the quality of kindness. This was a precious shining point that he did not see in Liszt. This made Liszt unbearably angry. Am I not kind? Under my rule, be it nobles, commoners, or serfs, all live and work in peace. Although there is no equality for everyone, basic food and clothing and human rights are guaranteed. Compared to other countries, the kingdom of fire is simply heaven. However, Orn's reply had a clear meaning. The kindness of a ruler was different from the kindness of an individual. Orn yearned for the kindness in the heart. That's called the Virgin Mary. Liszt snorted disdainfully, but he approved of Orn's choice. Although the Virgin Mary was hateful, a true Virgin Mary in one's heart was worthy of admiration. Hippolyta knew how to protect elves at a young age. Perhaps there was a Virgin Mary in her heart. Orn, kindness is worth pursuing, but as a dragon and a dragon knight, you need to understand that battles are blood and fire that a dragon knight must experience. Orn responded to Liszt with certainty. He was already a few hundred years old and had experienced all kinds of battles, big and small. He would never be soft-hearted. Moreover, between him and Hippolyta, he would be the one guiding Hippolyta in battle. He wouldn't be affected by Hippolyta's Virgin Mary nature. Don't forget that in his spiritual world, there was still Liszt's spiritual brand. Liszt, who didn't have the Virgin Mary nature, wouldn't condone Hippolyta's undeserved kindness. Of course, his conversation with Orn didn't need to be made clear to Hippolyta. Looking at the indescribably excited young girl, Hippolyta was already an adult and not much younger than Emily. Hippolyta, you're lucky to have been chosen by Orn to become the glorious and holy Dragon Knight. You'll be the second female Dragon Knight in the entire legendary continent. Rest assured, Your Majesty. Hippolyta will earnestly carry out her duties as a Dragon Knight and protect the Flame family and the Kingdom of Fire. Very well. Next, I'll let Emily teach you how to become a qualified Dragon Knight. Go home and spend a few days with your family. The training of a future Dragon Knight is very arduous. The young girl puffed out her full chest, brimming with confidence. Hippolyta never fears hardship. Chapter 11:24. The best news in November was not that the great Calabash spirit, Klein, had graduated from the Royal Sapphire Dragon, Rise, and began the final stage of his sprint toward becoming a dragon spirit. The majestic power of fate surrounded Klein, so that there would be no accidents during his evolution. The best news was that after Leo's cultivation in the Calamity volcanoes had reached perfection and absorbed enough volcano super demons, his body finally grew to a length of 100 meters and a wingspan of 100 meters. He had become a real adult fire dragon. Roar. The roar was even more intimidating with a strong sense of oppression. The scales on his body turned from black and red to dark brown, and only a trace of dark red flames flowed in the depths of the cracks. The dragon horns on his head became more and more ferocious, and the narrow vertical pupils in his dragon eyes looked full of evil. His entire temperament exuded an awe-inspiring evil aura. Leo, congratulations on becoming an adult. It took you 7 years to pass the juvenile stage and become an adult giant dragon. Liszt stood on the head of the invisible dragon bard and looked at the majestic fire dragon in front of him. Leo nodded slightly like a human. The next moment, his entire body turned into a ball of flames and crashed into Liszt's chest, turning into the familiar fire dragon totem. Liszt patted his chest and sat back on Bard's dragon tooth platform. Immediately, the man and the dragon tore through the material boundary and returned to the world outside the material world. They found the natural node of the Sun-Moon Valley and transmigrated back. From now on, let me spend some time alone with Leo and touch the stronghold. In one of the active craters of the Doomsday volcanoes. Liszt and Leo stood at the crater and began their official breakthrough as a Stronghold Knight. Previously, there was a smoke mission to touch the stronghold. He had successfully completed it with his understanding of creating something out of nothing. But after understanding the murals on Mount Mura Gaoding and understanding the existence of the stronghold, his concept of creating something out of nothing had been sublimated. Before, I thought that super demons existed because there shouldn't be super demons here, but there should be, so there was. Actually, this is very superficial. It's not that there should be, so there is. It's just a manifestation of the rules. The existence of super demons is a product derived from the rules. This was not an idealistic worldview, but it could not be considered a materialistic worldview either. This was the unique rule system of this world. The demonic dragon, the moon dragon, the evil dragon, and even the previous holy dragon were the masters of this rule. Now it's up to you and me to master the rules. The best way to grasp the laws is to fuse with them. This volcano will be our training ground for a long time in the future. List touched the scales on Leo's forelimbs and took the lead to jump into the crater of the volcano, where there was bubbling hot magma. Leo roared and followed closely behind, jumping into the crater of the volcano. It was so huge that it had to transform into its magic form halfway and merge with List into the magma. It had been a long time since Leo had harvested Volcano Supreme Demons in Doomsday Volcano, so there were thick Volcano Supreme Demons everywhere in the magma. The tiny Supreme Magic particles were doing Brownian motion in the magma. No one knew where they came from or how they came to be. List in his magic form and Leo in his magic form had merged into one. The two synchronized thoughts controlled a huge mass of mana, wantonly capturing and sensing the meta-magic particles while thinking in the magma. In fact, Leo's body was made of supreme magic. After absorbing the essence of the phoenix, List's body basically became a supreme magic particle. Their resonance with supreme magic was to a large extent the closest to the rules. Cultivation didn't know time unless they were hungry. After soaking in the magma for a whole day and night, List was the first to give up. He was already hungry without a meal, let alone a whole day. He rushed out of the magma and returned to his human body. He took out food from his spatial ring and ate. Leo also rushed out and enjoyed his favorite grilled steak. They soaked in Doomsday Volcano for a whole half a month. Although they were still far from breaking through the barrier and mastering the rules, he and Leo's control of the supreme magic particle had greatly improved. Now I can truly call myself a half-step barrier knight. With his combat power as a fire dragon knight, he would definitely be able to kill any dragon knight in the legendary continent in seconds. He didn't need the help of the dragon knight's secret manual. He could just rely on his powerful fire element mana to kill everything. Come, let's go back and get Emily and Hippolyta to help us test our combat power. Back at the Palace of Stars. Emily, who was riding the light emerald dragon Isin, and Hippolyta, who was riding the gray iron dragon Aon, were already waiting at the back of the mountain. The two female dragon knights' combat power wasn't strong, but they were enough to test List's combat power. Your Majesty, Hippolyta is still adapting to his identity as a dragon knight. He might not be able to unleash Aon's full combat power. Please let me be the main attacker, Emily said. He was as valiant and heroic as ever. Hippolyta wore a bright silver armor and held an 8-meter-long dragon spear in his hand. It was forged from a magical metal alloy. The Fire Kingdom lacked many things, but magical metal was not one of them. Your Majesty, although I'm not as strong as Emily, I'll do my best. Don't be nervous. I'm just testing my current strength through the battle. List smiled faintly. Leo and I have been reborn. You don't have to feel burdened when you unleash your full strength. This is the only way I can accurately understand my current strength. As you wish, the two ladies replied. The battle began. List rode on the 100-meter-long fire dragon Leo, and in his hand was the largest 10-meter-long dragon spear. He didn't use his dragon breath. He used brute force and supreme demonic dragon battle energy to fight Emily and Hippolyta. The dragon spear seemed to come to life in his hands. It blocked left and right, dispersing the two storm-like attacks. No matter how powerful the impact of the two of them was, coupled with the secret book of dragon battle chi, they could not break through his defense. Roar! Roar! As dragons, Ethan and Aon were enraged when they saw List's unwavering stance. Their violent magical energy connected with the dragon knight and burst forth with even greater strength. Unfortunately, List continued to block the attacks of the two dragon knight like he was taking a stroll in the park. He even had the leisure to find the flaws in Emily and Hippolyta's fighting style. He had fought alongside Ethan and Orn in the past, so he knew where they needed to improve on their draconic fighting techniques. Not enough, Emily. Your attack frequency isn't high enough. You and Ethan haven't found the right frequency yet. You're just mediocre at the same time. You need to increase the frequency of your attacks. Ethan will gradually adapt to your fighting style. Remember, the knight is the guide. He parried their attacks with his spear and urged Leo forward. The dragon spear swayed in the air, its tip producing countless spear sparks. Asterisk boom, boom, boom. Asterisk every time he trembled, he would thrust his spear at Emily, who was on the dragon's back. The spear brushed past Emily's forehead. If he wanted to, he could stab the Dragon Knight to death with one move at any time. The difference in strength was simply crushing. A half-step barrier knight wasn't something the Dragon Knight could compare to. Stop. I understand my strength now. List withdrew his dragon spear and looked at the two girls calmly. You two still need to improve yourselves. Even a perfect stage Dragon Knight isn't the end of the training system. If you can keep up with me, I'll show you the way to the future. With that, he urged Leo to fly towards the Celestial Palace. Only an unreachable silhouette was left in the girl's eyes. Even when it disappeared into a black dot, it was still as dazzling as the sun. Chapter 11:25. The New Year festival of the second year of the Flame calendar was full of joy. The magic transmission array between Prairie Fire City and Reef City was completed a few days before the New Year festival. Reef City became another major trading city of the Fire Kingdom. Prairie Fire City also began to build in the hilly areas of the mercenary city-states. The opening of this trade route would successfully satisfy the various needs of the Fire Kingdom. Without any worries, List was ready to attack the alliance of the three countries. Father, the mission of the Outer Pavilion this year is to coordinate all the orders of chivalry and attack the Eagle Kingdom. I will personally defeat the Dragon Knight of the Eagle Kingdom one by one. The rest of the work should not be difficult, right? The Burning Legion is growing in size, but the orders of chivalry of the feudal nobles are still weak. However, as long as you defeat the Dragon Knight, the orders of chivalry of the Fire Kingdom will not be able to resist the orders of chivalry of the Eagle Kingdom. It will not be difficult to persuade them to surrender, Lee Williams said, but he still had some worries. List, are you sure you can defeat the enemy under the attack of so many Dragon Knight? My power has already surpassed the scope of the Dragon Knight. It is advancing to another level and it is growing every day. List stretched out a hand and gently clenched it into a fist. One could see the surging supreme magic Do Chi evaporating in his palm. No matter how many Dragon Knight there are, they are no match for me. He paused. He added, the most important thing is that I am ready to ride on a new dragon. He was referring to the 4 mature soul fruits on the soul fruit tree. The 4 fruits corresponded to 4 dragons. He was ready to rob all the dragons of the Eagle Kingdom. The Eagle Kingdom originally had 9 dragons, and the vassal countries had 5 dragons. But now, 3 dragons in the kingdom had been snatched away by List. They were the Bronze Dragon, the Amethyst Dragon, and the Light Green Gem Dragon. The vassal kingdom also had a dragon snatched away by List. That was the Gray-Mouthed Iron Dragon. At present, the Eagle Kingdom had 10 dragons and 4 Dragon Knights, including its vassal states. White Iron Dragon Knight Alex White Iron, Topaz Dragon Knight Tracy Crying Blood Pelican, Lead Dragon Knight Warren Inverted Golden Clock, Silver Dragon, White Iron Dragon, Brass Dragon, and Crimson Ruby Dragon Knight Edward Crimson, Pink Ruby Dragon, Gold Emerald Dragon, Copper Dragon. I will mainly appease the Dragon and Dragon Knight of the Eagle Kingdom, but I will not be polite to the Dragon and Dragon Knight of the Eagle Kingdom. I can no longer guess your strength, List. As your father, I am proud of you and my heart is filled with pride. The Tulip family is also proud of your birth. We hope that the Flame family will be able to exist for a long time, and forever be the pillar of the Tulip family. Lee Williams sighed emotionally. Father, I will. The Flame family will develop and so will the Tulip family. I will never forget that I was born into the Tulip family. I am very gratified. Let my brother nurture Richard well. I think the one in the Tulip family most likely to become a Dragon Knight is Richard. Richard was the son of his brother, Levis. Yes, we are all focusing on nurturing Richard. Lee William had actually wanted to ask List if he could give Lytton a chance to ride a dragon, but when he remembered that Lytton and List had never been on good terms since young, he did not bring it up again. The current List was already in existence that needed to be looked up to. No one could control his will. No matter what, all the males in the Tulip family would have an oppressive air of nobility because of List's existence. They would enjoy the noble power of nobility for the rest of their lives. After the new year. As usual, List patrolled the territories of his followers, and went to the castles of the nobles to have a banquet to show that he was close to them. The first place he went to was his father Lee William's territory, Tulip Island. The new Tulip Castle stood tall on the mountain range in the center of the island. It was tall and magnificent, but it was only a half-finished product. More than half of the castle was still under construction. This speed of construction was already very fast. Normally, large castles of nobles would take tens or even hundreds of years to build. The Fire Kingdom was able to flourish in the construction industry because of the technology of firing cement and red bricks. A few years' worth of progress was completed in a few years. The fire dragon stopped halfway up the mountain of the castle, lying there quietly. Balls of fire condensed on the surface of Leo's body, bathing the whole castle in a red glow. A knight pulled the grilled steak and carefully placed it in front of Leo for him to enjoy. How great! The great fire dragon. The knight of the tulip family looked at Leo from afar, exclaiming in admiration. For a normal knight, no matter which dragon they saw, they would only describe it as great. The worship of dragons was deeply ingrained in the bones of every knight. "O List, my dearest grandson, the great king of the Fire Kingdom, you are finally willing to visit your grandmother." Madame Penelope stood at the castle gate, leaning on a stick used by women to welcome List's arrival. List handed the cloak to the castle's butler, smiled and hugged Madame Penelope. "It was my carelessness, but seeing that you are still healthy, I am relieved. You will definitely live to be 100 years old." Madame Penelope had practiced qi in her early years, but she had long since declined to become an ordinary person. After the banquet began, the whole family chatted happily. As they chatted, they talked about List's marriage. After the Steel Ridge Kingdom declared its hostility towards the Fire Kingdom, the Red and White Rose family had a marriage alliance with the royal family of Blast Furnace Castle. A suitable marriage partner for List no longer existed. There were no princesses of suitable age in the major kingdoms, and princesses of small duchies were also not suitable. If he really wanted to choose a suitable candidate, he could either look for one in a distant kingdom, or wait for the little princesses of several kingdoms to grow up. Or he could simply give up on the marriage alliance and directly look for a woman of suitable age from within the country. "List, although you are the king of a kingdom, marriage should be resolved as soon as possible. Only a king who gives birth to a child is a qualified king," said Madame Penelope. "I understand, grandmother." List had also considered it, but there was no sense of urgency. He had already determined that he could live for a few hundred years, so what if he gave birth to a child? Sooner or later, the old would have to send off the young, so it was better not to have children for the time being. It would be better not to have children for the time being, lest it be difficult for him to have children for so many generations without dying. But then again, he had only been king for 2 years, and he already felt a little tired of it. "I will consider a candidate for queen as soon as possible, and then give birth to a child." At the end of the banquet, List chose to stay at Tulip Castle for the night. He talked all night with his father, his elder brother and his younger brother Lytton, about the world's events and family matters. They were all adults and standard nobles. There was a huge gap in status and there was no atmosphere of a big family. But at least there was a part of family affection that could be spoken from the heart. List did not like the loneliness of being a loner. Early the next morning he left Tulip Castle. Before leaving, Madame Penelope took out a potted plant and gave it to List. "Although you are now a king and lack nothing and have a lot of elves, this is a token of grandmother's heart. I have given many people potted plants, and only on the body of a child of glory can they germinate into elves." List glanced at it and knew that it was just an ordinary potted plant, but he still picked it up. "I have taken good care of the potted plants you gave me. Go, my king." Roar! The fire dragon Leo soared into the sky like a black and red light, disappearing at the end of the horizon. Chapter 11:26. The war has begun. The Marquis of the P Island, D. Maria Yuashi, stood on the balcony of the top-floor office of the Fire Kingdom's administrative building, looking at the bustling crowds on both sides of Gilded Avenue. He sighed softly. "Uncle, the family's orders of chivalry have been assembled and are on standby. They will follow the kingdom's orders of chivalry and move out at any time." His nephew, Deborah Yuashi, stood behind him and said, "His Majesty's opening the way for this dragon-slaying battle and the orders of chivalry to charge and assist." Did he really think it through? Towards List, all the ordinary knight of the Fire Kingdom had reached the level of blind worship. Basically, they would do whatever List said. But as a great aristocrat, there would always be all kinds of different thoughts between the family and the kingdom. D. Maria smiled and turned to look at his nephew, who was no longer young. He said, "His Majesty is a very contradictory king. There is almost no lust for power in him, and he does not make any moves to control power. He is even unfamiliar with some political methods." Deborah listened quietly. In his mind, his uncle was the embodiment of wisdom. D. Maria pondered and said, "His Majesty is more like a knight than a king. He is more used to speaking with power. This is probably the difference in thinking between the Dragon Knight and us ordinary knight. In short, in terms of measuring power, His Majesty is the most authoritative existence in the Fire Kingdom, and even in the entire legendary continent." Indeed, His Majesty's power has long been unfathomable. The Dragon Knight of the Three-Nation Alliance must travel together before daring to go out for patrol. So when His Majesty decides to take the initiative and start the dragon-slaying battle, what we need to do is follow behind His Majesty. But, Uncle, this time His Majesty is facing a group of Dragon Knight. I dare not imagine how powerful the Dragon Knight of the Three-Nation Alliance will be. D. Maria smiled warmly. Do you know how His Majesty described his power and the power of the Three-Nation Alliance when he convened a meeting of the Outer Court? How did he describe it? His Majesty said that he is a monolith, and the individual Dragon Knight of the Alliance of the Three Countries is a grain of sand. No matter how much sand is gathered, it is still a plate of loose sand. Only the monolith is indestructible. When D. Maria repeated these words, List's tone of voice surfaced in his mind. It was a kind of tranquility that transcended all worldly matters, as if all living beings were ants that were not to be feared. Deborah stared blankly for a moment before repeating, monolith and scattered sand. Sir Laird, I'll leave the Heart Island's defensive magic array to you. Your Majesty, please rest assured. The defensive magic array modified by Sir Achilles is very stable against the Dragon Knight's attack. I will guard the magic gate of the Heart Island for the kingdom. In the Soul Fort, List was conversing with High Mage Laird Truth. The former High Mage of the noble Frost Empire had completely integrated into the Fire Kingdom. He had even found a lover and had an illegitimate child. Turning mages into arcanists was the first step in the reform of magic. The next step was to reform the way mages passed down their lineage. They would no longer focus on secrecy, but would integrate into the knight system and adopt an academic education system. All arcanists were also encouraged to marry and even establish arcana families. The current arcanists had completely become the model scientists in List's mind. After Laird left, the Dean of the Royal Arcana Academy, Chris Truth, walked into the study. Your Majesty, Kenley's attitude is firm. She is not willing to get involved in the matters of the war. To avoid suspicion, she has been transferred to the Marine Laboratory on Anchor Island to study the purification of demons. Kenley Truth was the Vice Dean of the Royal Arcana Academy. She was born into the Magic Elephant family of the Steel Ridge Kingdom and had come to the Fire Kingdom to follow Truth's incarnation, a Chi. She had been obsessed with magic research and had not returned home for many years. She only communicated with her family through letters. However, her identity had always been an obstacle. After all, the Steel Ridge Kingdom and the Fire Kingdom were enemies. List nodded. Help me tell Kenley that I have not lost my trust in her. However, since she is not interested in the war, she can focus on her research in the Marine Laboratory. When I unify the northeast corner of the legendary continent, I will treat the Magic Elephant family well. I will not make things difficult for her. He recognized Kenley's character. In fact, even if Kenley became a spy, it would not be a big deal. Under the suppression of great power, the so-called alliance of the three countries was nothing. As you wish, Your Majesty. How is the preparation of the Arcanists' magic battle team? With a large number of reinforcements from the ancient moon magicians, the magic battle team is equipped with 10 magic pools. They are fully armed. They only need to release projectile magic, so it is easy to train them. In an official battle, they should be comparable to Your Majesty's Dark Horse, Orders of Chivalry. Projectile magic was a combination of the lowest level of basic magic and the higher level of ordinary magic. It was simply magic that was released by condensing magic. For example, Water Arrow spell, Water Arrow volley, Flying Rock spell, Wind Blade spell, multiple wind blades, and so on. Projectile magic was a large-scale battle. It extracted the magic stored in the magic pool, condensed it into a projectile, and threw it out. Boom, it exploded. This was an era where magic webs had shrunk. It was a new direction for magic battles. There would no longer be the problem of magic being disrupted by the knight's charge. Chris's evaluation of the magic battle team was that their strength was comparable to the Dark Horse, Orders of Chivalry. The Dark Horse, Orders of Chivalry, was the lowest of the Burning Legion. Therefore, overall the magic battle team was not strong enough. However, it was much stronger than the Nobles' Orders of Chivalry. Moreover, it could cast long-range spells and was a great supplement for the Burning Legion's Orders of Chivalry. Very well, let this battle test the quality of the magic battle team. If the effect is good, the Royal Arcane Academy can promote it. Yes, Your Majesty. Chris said a few words and then got up to leave. List leaned back in his chair and looked at the blue sea and blue sky outside the window. From time to time, a knight of World of Warcraft would fly across the sky in the distance. The entire Heart Island had become a war fortress. With his actions, a mighty epic war would begin. First, I will break the back of the Eagle Kingdom. After that, I will annex the Iron and Steel Ridge and the Blast Furnace Castle. This year should be enough, right? He was very optimistic in his heart. With the power of a half-step stronghold knight, there was no need for any conspiracy. He just needed to fight fair and square. Closing his eyes, he could feel the invisible Bard flying in the sky above the Eagle Kingdom. Bard was arranged by him to find the nature nodes. When all the nature nodes in the Eagle Kingdom were found, he would be able to quickly travel with Fire Dragon Leo and surround any Dragon Knight. This time, the dragon-slaying battle would not be a small fight. Only 1 or 2 Dragon Knights would die. A large number of dragons and Dragon Knight were destined to fall. The power of fate surrounded him, and List could even feel the smoke dragon egg in his mind stirring. As long as I continue to push fate forward, the smoke dragon will be able to obtain more magic and be reborn. When the smoke dragon is reborn, will fate be able to be reversed at will? The birth of the smoke dragon depended on his will. In other words, the new smoke dragon's dragon personality would be replaced by List's personality. It was equivalent to his clone. I am the smoke dragon. The power of fate is my power. Chapter 11:27. The war was about to begin, and the mist was gathering by the sea. The alliance of the 3 countries had also felt List's determination, so the orders of chivalry to patrol the coastline and combat smuggling increased to 7 dragons. 7 dragons? Unfortunately, loose sand is loose sand. You don't understand what the barrier is. I haven't completely broken the barrier, but I've touched the law of fire. It's just a trace of the law, but it's enough to make Leo and me transcend the world. List was very patient. He asked the kingdom to prepare for war, but he was still leisurely playing in the mortal world and patrolling the territory. Invisible dragon bards searched for natural nodes in the Eagle Kingdom every day. Every natural node found meant that List's control over the Eagle Kingdom increased a little. This was just the beginning. In the future, he would continue to search for natural nodes in the Iron and Steel Ridge and the Blast Furnace Castle, so that the shadow would cover every Dragon Knight. Now he returned to the Fire Kingdom and came to a training square in the Royal Knight Academy. A group of children stood in the square, ranging from 7 to 12 or 13 years old. Most of them were boys and a small number were girls. There were Moon Killers, Eagle Killers and Sapphire Killers. Now they were all children of the Fire Kingdom. Are you sure they all have the physique of the fire element? He asked Lucy and Ruth, who accompanied him. Yes, Your Majesty. Lucy, who had already put on the uniform of a Grand Arcanist, answered respectfully. She was not yet an adult, but she had already shown her feminine side. She and her sister Ruth were the twins guided by the Smoke Mission. They had very outstanding magic talents. They studied under a Chi, and now at such a young age, they had already become Grand Arcanists. One of the criteria to become a Grand Arcanist was that one's magic ability must reach the level of an Archmage. There was no doubt that the twins had both broken through the level of an Archmage. They had the potential to become Archmages in the future. The older sister Lucy was currently a Chi's laboratory assistant, and the younger sister Ruth was Chris's administrative assistant. They were the future managers of the Royal Arcana Academy. Your Majesty, the fire magic sensitive array designed by Teacher A. Chi can accurately measure the deep nature of each child who produces battle energy. I'm in charge of measuring all the children of the right age, so there won't be any mistakes, the younger sister Ruth said proudly. List nodded calmly. If that's the case, then let's start preparing for the Fire Demon Swordsman transformation ritual. Fire Demon Swordsman, this was his idea a long time ago, derived from Paris Flame's identity as a black dragon. Paris had now become a great swordsman of light and magic, and her combat ability was roughly equivalent to that of a full-fledged Sky Knight. Shackled by the cultivation system, he was unable to improve any further. However, this strength was already very good. Not every knight had the opportunity to become a Domain Knight or a Dragon Knight. A perfect Sky Knight was the peak that a normal knight could foresee. Now that he had created a batch of Fire Demon Swordsmen, it would be a good way to replenish his personal guards. Orders of chivalry lacked candidates. The Fire Kingdom still had too few geniuses. Roar! Leo descended from the sky and landed in front of the square. He was the protagonist of the Fire Demon Swordsman transformation ritual. Lucy bowed deeply to List and replied, Your Majesty, the transformation ritual needs the help of you and Lord Leo. I understand the process of this ritual. When Leo needs to release the Fire Dragon Supreme Demon, I will cooperate with you. Let's get started. As you wish, Your Majesty. The transformation ritual of the fire demon swordsman did not have many complicated steps, and these children did not even need to do anything. At the beginning, Paris was forced to transform into a white dragon by the court great magician of the Grand Duchy of Maple Leaf. He used many complicated means and had to sacrifice his life. In the end, he still failed and became a black dragon. The current ritual was more similar to the infusion of magic, using the magic array to build an environment that could accommodate magic in the child's body. Lucy and Ruth began to direct the surrounding arcanists to activate the magic array, and the ritual officially began. Jim had grown taller. He was no longer the little baby who followed his mother to Flame Island from the Kingdom of Eagle. In the past 2 years, because his mother remarried a widowed and lame knight, he became the son of a knight. Although the knight was a little grumpy and occasionally beat his mother when he was drunk. But as a member of the former Dark Horse Orders of Chivalry, he enjoyed many benefits. One of them was that his children could receive an education qualification from the best knight academy near the fief, so Jim received a good education. After showing outstanding talent at the Knight Academy, he was recommended by the Academy to participate in the selection of the Fire Demon Swordsman. He was honored to be selected. His lame knight stepfather told him that the Fire Demon Swordsmen were the guards of His Majesty the King and the most glorious knight of the kingdom. Jim, work hard to become a Fire Demon Swordsman, and your mother will be proud of you. Will you be proud of me too? Why not? His stepfather's words echoed in his ears and Jim took a deep breath. He desperately hoped that he could become a Fire Demon Swordsman. He wanted to fulfill his childhood wish of becoming a knight who could protect his mother, and he also hoped that after he obtained the glory of a Fire Demon Swordsman, his mother would receive more respect. He was grateful for the protection his stepfather gave him, and he hoped that his mother could be happy and not be beaten again. Whoosh! The light of the magic formation was a little dazzling. Jim felt his newly born low-level battle energy move rhythmically like waves with a special force. Then he suddenly heard a roar that made him shiver. Roar! In the next moment he raised his head and saw the gigantic fire dragon crouching near the square flapping its wings, creating balls of flames that crashed into the light of the magic array. Boom! The entire magic formation shook violently, as if it would collapse at any moment. Leo, be gentle. The voice was not very loud, but it was clear and powerful. It echoed in Jim's heart and ears. In his young mind, a tall figure that he could not look straight at instantly appeared. It's His Majesty the King, Jim thought. In the Fire Kingdom, from 80-year-old women to 3-year-old babies, there was no one who didn't know the name of the King of Fire Kingdom list. In other kingdoms, the knight's words were always, Knight's glorious blessing. In the Fire Kingdom, many people chose, His Majesty the King's glorious blessing. This was not flattery but respect from the bottom of their hearts. Jim's stepfather said this every day, and he was proud that he had once followed His Majesty the King. His Majesty the King will unify the 3 kingdoms in the end. Like a fanatic, every time after drinking, his stepfather would proclaim this to everyone he met, and Jim could not help but be influenced. His Majesty the King will unify the 3 kingdoms in the end, and I will become a Fire Demon Swordsman, a guard of His Majesty the King. Mother will be proud of me and stepfather will also respect mother more. Just as he was thinking. Suddenly his body felt like it was thrown into a raging fire. Jim gritted his teeth and did not shout out loud, but silently endured the burning of the fire. There were other boys beside him who could not bear the burning and cried out. Soon an adult's voice sounded, Your Excellency Ruth, this child's willpower is too weak. Then a cold female voice sounded, Eliminated, he is no longer qualified to bear Lord Leo's magic. Jim's heart trembled, and he gritted his teeth even more firmly to resist the burning pain. Just when he was muddle-headed and about to give up, the feeling finally disappeared. Then waves of warmth came from his tired body, soothing the suffering he had suffered. Congratulations, little ones. The king's voice was like a spring breeze. Jim opened his eyes and saw the king wearing golden striped leather armor and a black and red cape walking towards them. If you can withstand the magic baptism of the fire dragon, you will be qualified to become a Fire Demon Swordsman. There is still a long way to go, but the Guard Orders of Chivalry will open his arms to you. Work hard in your training. Chapter 11:28. The fire dragon super magic in the children's bodies is transforming well. They can already train according to the training system of the Fire Demon Swordsman. Your Majesty, the transformation ceremony was very successful. Lucy came to report. Seeing that there were no servants in the study, she walked behind List and massaged List's shoulders with her fair and slender fingers. Lord Leo consumed so many fire dragon super magic in this transformation ceremony. Will it negatively affect your training, Your Majesty? List leaned against the back of the chair and let Lucy massage his shoulders. He flipped through a document and said, "There are enough volcano super magic in the volcanoes of the Doomsday volcanoes for Leo to replenish. Leo is already an adult and super magic is no longer a shackle for him. The lack of super magic would limit the growth of a young dragon, but an adult dragon only needed super magic to sustain its daily consumption." Moreover, List and Leo had already touched the barrier and were in the process of mastering the law of fire. Once they broke through the barrier and mastered the law of making something out of nothing, they would be able to continuously produce fire dragon super magic. They would no longer need to absorb it from the outside world, just like how the magic dragon's magic power was endless. Since the era of the Moon Empire, even though the magic net had shrunk, the magic power was still inexhaustible. Lord Leo is growing really fast. I remember when I first met Lord Leo, he was still a very small young dragon, Lucy said reminiscently. List smiled. When you were young. Lucy, you are also a child now, right? In the legendary continent, 16 was the age of adulthood. Lucy walked up to List, stuck out her full chest and said seriously, "Your Majesty, Lucy celebrated her birthday last month. Now Lucy and Ruth are both adults." Her blonde hair was soft on one side, and her pretty face was covered with a light blush. She looked as attractive as a ripe apple. List stood up from the chair, lifted Lucy's chin, and looked down at this female Grand Arcanist. She was less than 1.65 meters tall, but in front of List, who was 1.9 meters tall, she was not much different from a child. "Well, I didn't realize that you two were already adults." He sighed slightly. Time passed really quickly. Unknowingly, he had already been in this world for a whole 9 years. From a 16-year-old ignorant youth, he had grown into a 25-year-old youth. The cute little girls around him were also gradually walking towards the blooming of youth, the best years of their lives. Amelie and Hippolyta, who became the Dragon Knight, Paris, who managed the kingdom's finances, and Lucy and Ruth, the Grand Arcanists. The only one who had not yet reached adulthood was probably the little sea monster Chi. But Chi's body had actually reached adulthood long ago. Growing feet was a sign of a siren's adulthood. As a magic shooter, there was no such thing as an immature soul. "Your Majesty." Lucy looked away, her cheeks flushed red, and her voice sounded like a mosquito flapping its wings. List loosened his fingers and said lightly, "You and Ruth will stay in the Palace of Stars, Moon and Sun tonight." Lucy's mouth gaped open in surprise. After a long while, a sweet smile appeared on her face as she nodded vigorously. And she had been waiting for this day for a long time. In April, the grass was long and the birds were flying. In the Palace of Stars, a dragon elf dressed in a tuxedo with a pale yellow gourd on his head looked at List like a little adult. "Alice's temper is too bad. I think the best solution is to expel it from the residential area of the little and big elves and restrict its access." This was the gourd dragon elf, Kelly, who had successfully completed its evolution. From the beginning, it was stimulated by Ella to evolve, so the first thing it did after the evolution was to find fault with Ella. List coughed softly and said, "Kelly, I will educate Ella well. Now the kingdom has a great demand for gourds. I hope you can go to the plantation to help." "Of course I will go to the plantation. I'm going to live in the plantation. I like the scenery there. The palace is too monotonous." Kelly replied. "Yes, the palace is indeed monotonous. You should plant more gourd vines. When the gourd vines climb up, it will add a lot of beautiful scenery to the palace." "Thank you for your kindness, but I still decided not to plant so many gourd vines. You know, Yachty likes to grow buckwheat, Callie likes to grow cannibal trees, and Ash likes to grow peas. But the palace is not a plantation. The landscape plants here are taken care of by professional magic planters, so there is no need to worry. They have terrible taste. I thought your taste would be as elegant as mine." "Ahem, Kelly, don't talk like that. You will make me think you are Parker." The image of the giant algae dragon elf, Parker, emerged in List's mind. He grinned and laughed, shouting that he was the most handsome. Kelly shrugged his shoulders. "It's just a suggestion." Then he turned and flew away. The number of big elves in the current Palace of Stars did not increase much. After the temporary suspension of the development order, the source of big elves mainly relied on the evolution of the little elves. But even if List could guide the power of fate and bless the evolution of the little elves, it still required a lot of luck. There was also the probability of failure. So the number of elves in the palace entered a period of steady growth. However, the number of his dragon elves did not decrease. At present there were 6 dragon elves: Cannibal Tree, Buckwheat, Phoenix Tree, Giant Algae, Pea and Gourd. There was also the Coffee Elf, Mondo, and an unnamed Barley Elf, which was in the process of evolution. There were 8 of them. 8 had reached the level of the average royal family. The number of elves will increase slowly. It's a pity that Ella hasn't been able to trigger the evolution. I don't know what kind of dragon it has. Ella is really different, brother. Have you noticed that Ella's emotions and IQ are the highest among all the big elves, even more abundant than the dragon elves? Achi returned from Uragadon Mountain and was ready to stay in the Palace of Stars for a few more days to crack some of the runes engraved. Well, Ella sat on List's shoulder, not conscious of being a third wheel. List laughed. Ella is really different. It is unique. I don't know which dragon it will like. If I knew, I would just grab it. The Smoke Mission once mentioned Ella's uniqueness. The power of fate around Ella was indeed greater than that of the average big elf. Achi rubbed Ella's head. In the palace, apart from List, only Achi could rub its head. Even Paris and Emily could not. In fact, Ella likes you the most. Few big elves have such an intimate attitude. Elves were born from plants and plants were single. Therefore, the character of the elves was similar to that of plants. They were not social creatures and did not have strong emotions. Even the owner of the contract only had feelings brought by the power of the contract. It was because of this that the buckwheat dragon elf, Yadi, was able to quickly integrate into the Palace of the Stars, Moon and Sun when she came to Inferno Island from the Eagle royal family. The man-eating tree dragon elf, Kali, often ventured out and seldom stayed in the palace. The phoenix perching parasol tree dragon elf, Ainfant, lived in the distant Doomsday volcano chain. The giant algae dragon elf, Parker, stayed in the undersea forest all day. The pea dragon elf, Ash, was obsessed with the art of rope, and Klee was ready to move into the gourd plantation. Only Ella liked to stick to List. Yes, Ella likes me the most. List smiled, but Achi's words had stirred up waves in his heart. He looked at Ella, but he was thinking, Ella likes me the most? Ella is the most unique elf in the Smoke Mission. So, the dragon that Ella should really like should not be the smoke dragon that merged with me, right? The meeting with Ella is the intertwining of fate? Chapter 11:29. Whether Ella was destined to be with the smoke dragon, he would know when the smoke dragon was born. List left Ella in the castle and went out with Achi for a good day. It was not until nightfall that he returned to the Palace of the Sun, Moon, and Stars. After dinner, he took Achi to the piano room. Playing the piano and singing, Achi soon sat in the arms of List, just like when the little siren had not yet grown her feet. Achi, how many years have we known each other? Achi and my brother have known each other for 8 years, 3 months and 15 days. Achi, who had the brain of a high mage, could recite this data. At that time, Achi was being chased by Guru Mida. It was Big Brother who protected Achi and let her live in the Flower Town's small castle. Then Achi said with some emotion, it was in the small castle that Achi gradually came into contact with the esoteric knowledge of magic and understood the operating order of the whole world. Yes, when I gave you the magic book, it was just so that you wouldn't be bored living in the castle. I did not expect that the soft and weak little siren at that time could grow into a powerful magic shooter who is famous all over the world, making countless mages come on a pilgrimage. Achi smiled and pulled List's earlobe, but Achi knew from the beginning that my brother would become a very, very powerful dragon knight to protect Achi. That's also true, my temperament is more outstanding. Hee. Looking at the lovely Achi, List bowed his head and kissed Achi on her smooth forehead. Then he brushed aside her thick blue hair, revealing her crystal ears. There were transparent, soft fin-like protrusions on the outer ear. This was the difference between sirens and humans. There was also a pair of transparent fin-like wings on her back. The transparent water ribbons around her body had disappeared. She had adapted to human behavior and put on her clothes. Achi. Be my brother's queen, okay? List asked with a smile. He had wanted to say this for a long time. It was impossible to maintain a pure brother-sister relationship with Achi. From the moment they first met, he knew that Achi, who was as beautiful as a diamond, was the most precious gift that fate had arranged for him. This bond had been established a long time ago and could not be severed. Achi looked at List and smiled sweetly. Sure. Her expression was natural and unrestrained, without any hesitation or panic, as if this was how it should be. Hence, List lowered his head again and kissed Achi's lips fiercely. It was only when Achi could no longer hold her breath that List was willing to part. I will use a grand wedding to announce to the entire legendary continent that Achiroid's truth will become the legal wife of I List Flame. Hee hee. Achi seemed very happy, but then she frowned. But brother, Achi is a siren and you are a human. Sirens and humans are reproductively isolated. Achi can't give birth to a baby for you, right? Then don't give birth to a baby. We have a lifespan of hundreds of years and have long been extraordinary. Why should we care about secular reproduction? Although Achi doesn't understand the obsession of humans with reproduction, Achi hopes that brother can have a complete human life. Achi winked mischievously. Big brother can have babies with Emily and Paris. They are all excellent mothers. Ahem. Even though List was quite thick-skinned, he still blushed a little. He didn't want to discuss this issue more, so he stiffly changed the topic. Achi, you are a magic shooter, and your understanding of the soul and physiology far exceeds that of everyone else. I remember that you also studied vitality potions for a while, especially vitality potions that improve the reproduction of fish clowns, so, after a pause he asked, do you think that if we combine and use some magic means, we can give birth to a new life, a child that inherits my noble bloodline and yours? Achi thought seriously and said, the formation of Siren's life is essentially similar to the birth of elves. In fact, Achi has also thought about the different structures between the siren and human bodies. Although sirens have most of the same organs as humans, they do not have a reproductive system. Elves can be regarded as living jade, condensed with the help of plants. Sirens can also be regarded as living seawater, reborn with the help of shellfish. Jade and seawater obviously do not follow the rules of sexual reproduction. Without a reproductive system, it means that it is difficult for the blood to blend and conceive the next generation. List was very disappointed about this. He really hoped that he and Achi could have a child. As a complete earthling, family is an inseparable part. As if sensing his disappointment, Achi quickly said, but Achi has thought about the nature of life inheritance. The resurrection of the elemental dragon after death, the bloodline infection in World of Warcraft, the direct reproduction of the mother and daughter of the mermaid, the nirvana rebirth of the phoenix, the elves are born from plants, and the sea breeding of the sirens. I have come to a conclusion. What conclusion? Life also follows the triangular theory: magic, matter, and spirit. The body is the material and the carrier of life. The soul is the spirit and the embodiment of life. Talent is magic and the growth of life. Creatures that have not cultivated magic need to reproduce through reproduction, but creatures that have cultivated magic grow and are no longer limited to reproduction. List was familiar with the triangular theory, and it was not surprising that it applied to life. He asked, you are a magic shooter and I am a barrier knight. Your body is elemental and my body is phoenix. Our life forms must have grown. Achi, what other means can we use to reproduce? I don't know. Achi seemed to have learned to keep him guessing. She deliberately paused for a moment before saying, but brother, do you remember the picture you saw in the time diamond? Brother said that the future Achi reminded brother that the fairy dragon is in the land of exile? List said thoughtfully, you mean? The fairy dragon is the dragon that represents life among the holy dragons. Maybe if Achi wants to give brother a baby, she needs the power of the fairy dragon. Okay. List made the decision immediately. After unifying the legendary continent, we will find a way to enter the land of exile. In the past, Kurdish Truth, a great sorcerer, almost succeeded in finding the land of exile. With our strength, we can definitely go to the land of exile. The next morning, List directly issued an order to all the officials of the outer pavilion, the cabinet, and the inner court. I, the only master of the sea, the lord of all the islands, the invisible dragon knight, the fire dragon knight, the water dragon knight, the bronze dragon knight, the bone dragon knight, the aluminum dragon knight, the royal sapphire dragon knight, the bronze dragon knight, the king of the fire kingdom. List Flame, under the witness of the glory of the night and the truth of magic, will marry the magic shooter Achiroid's truth. She will be the queen of the fire kingdom and I will be the king of the fire kingdom. Husband and wife will be one, and we will jointly wield the holy power of the fire kingdom. Chapter 1131. His Majesty the King will hold a wedding with Sir Magic Shooter. In the Fire Kingdom, which had the Magic Foundation communication, the speed at which the news spread was extremely fast. In a short span of an hour, all the administrative offices in the major cities of the Fire Kingdom received the news. After that, they put up public notices announcing that the wedding between List and Achi would be held on June 1st of the second year of the Fire calendar. His Majesty's grand wedding, the Fire Kingdom will continue to exist for generations to come. Knights from all over the country rushed to the streets to spread the news and celebrate His Majesty. The commoners in the city soon got the news. They also rushed to the streets and discussed it enthusiastically in twos and threes. His Majesty the Great King is finally getting married. Our Fire Kingdom's little prince is about to be born. How joyous! The Queen is His Highness the Great Magic Shooter. She was His Majesty's companion before he rode the dragon. There must be a love that shines brighter than gold between them. His Highness is not only a great magic shooter, but also a pure unicorn knight. Only His Highness' purity is worthy of His Majesty's nobility. The prince they give birth to will definitely have the noblest bloodline in the world. I thought His Majesty would marry a princess as his queen. The princess of the kingdom is not worthy of our great king. Moreover, those three kingdoms are our enemies. His Majesty the King shouldn't have married the princesses of those kingdoms. I was originally a serf in the Eagle Kingdom. Even though I worked every day, I never had enough to eat. After coming to the Fire Kingdom, I already had my own house and a pony. My son is currently learning the knight course. All these were brought by His Majesty the Great King. Only His Majesty the King is the noblest. I really want to go to the Fire Royal City and personally witness the wedding of His Majesty the King and His Highness the High Mage. That scene is definitely an unforgettable moment. Her Highness is too happy becoming the wife of the great handsome king. She must be the happiest woman in the world. In order to celebrate His Majesty's wedding, I have decided to give my bakery a 10% discount today. Yes, today I must drink a glass of dark beer to toast His Majesty the King and His Highness the High Mage. They are the most perfect couple and will lead the Fire Kingdom to a new era. Hey old Jack, did you see His Majesty the King when you were farming on Black Horse Island? Haha, of course I've seen His Majesty. Not only have I seen him, His Majesty has even spoken to me. He says, "Old Jack, your peas are good. Why do my peas cost more than others?" It's because His Majesty praised them. I also saw His Majesty riding a horse with His Highness High Mage. At that time, I knew that the Great Dragon Knight and the High Mage would definitely be together. Old Jack, you are bragging again. You always brag about your peas, but you never said that His Majesty the King and His Highness the High Mage rode together. What do you know? I'm keeping His Majesty's marriage a secret. His Majesty's wedding decision seems to be a little hasty. A noble who was an official in the city was discussing with another official. His Highness Acheroids is a siren. I thought His Majesty would choose Her Highness Emily as his queen. Louis, His Majesty the King's wisdom is not something you and I can guess. I'm just a little worried that the war with the Three Kingdoms alliance is about to happen. Will there be any twists and turns in this wedding? You know, His Majesty the King needs an heir. The official looked around and saw that no one was approaching. He responded in a low voice, "There are more than one noble woman living in His Majesty's palace. Her Highness Emily, Minister Paris, and it is said that His Highness Hippolyta also stayed overnight. In short, you don't have to worry at all." Well, I know. I'm worrying too much. His Majesty is not an ordinary king. He is the most powerful holy dragon knight in the legendary continent. He's siren identity was no longer a secret to the great nobles. Therefore, the reproductive isolation of humans and sirens was also a frequent topic. At the moment in Tulip Castle, Madame Penelope was a little worried. When Liszt brought a Chi to the Coral Island Castle, I knew things weren't simple. Lee William told me about her siren identity. I appreciate her help in establishing a kingdom for Liszt, but the Flame family needs an heir. Madame Marie comforted her. Your grandson is the first king to start from scratch in the legendary continent for thousands of years. He knows what he is doing. The Flame family will definitely become more and more powerful and become a great dragon-nurturing family with a long history. Rolia echoed, "Yes, grandmother. His Majesty's choice is actually very charming." "Oh, Rolia, tell me how charming he is?" His Majesty did not choose a foreign princess, but chose Her Excellency Chi, whom he had known for the longest time. This shows that he values friendship and righteousness. Although marriage is the best choice for the nobles to maximize their benefits, such a choice also shows the noble qualities of His Majesty's knight. Indeed, Liszt has all the noble qualities of a knight. Madame Penelope nodded, but I still hope that he can marry a foreign princess, or choose that little girl Emily. I have seen her, and her figure is definitely suitable for bearing a child. Then she added, Minister of Finance Paris is also not bad, and that little girl Hippolyta, who can become a dragon knight, is definitely suitable for bearing a child. Madame Marie had the same feeling. Yes, Her Highness Emily, Minister Paris, and Her Highness Hippolyta, there are also many outstanding women in the kingdom. Grandmother, Madame Marie, I think your thinking is a bit off. What's off? His Majesty chose Her Excellency Chi, but this does not mean that he rejected Her Highness Emily, Marquis Paris, and Her Highness Hippolyta. Rolia said very seriously, His Majesty's great talent and strategy can be seen from the number of dragons he rides. If he can ride so many dragons, then it is only natural that he has more wives. Liszt had already broken the phenomenon of one knight riding one dragon. Hearing this, Madame Penelope and Madame Marie looked at each other, and then nodded at the same time. Indeed. Even if he only has one wife as a queen, he can still have many lovers. Even if illegitimate children can't inherit the glory of the king, but can't they still inherit the glory of their mother? Emily was currently a marquis, and sooner or later she would be promoted to a duke. The same was true for Hippolyta. Paris might not be able to promote to a duke, but a marquis was already glorious enough. You are really worrying for nothing. Madame Penelope paused the cane in her hand and then said, Marie Rolia, you must now carefully prepare for Liszt's wedding. The gift from Tulip Castle must be more precious than any gift from any aristocrat in the kingdom. Madame Marie asked subconsciously, Are you still going to send a potted plant? Madame Penelope raised her head and said proudly, Of course I will also send my potted plant. Although the sprite worm it has bred is no longer compatible with Liszt's identity, but it is still a token of appreciation from his grandmother. My potted plant has accompanied him since he was still the Flower Town Baron. Chapter 1132. Other than appearing happier, Chi behaved very naturally about the upcoming wedding. Perhaps to her, human love was just a small part of life. Only by immersing herself in the ocean of magical knowledge could she embrace the vast future. Or perhaps, she still didn't know what love was. Liszt, however, was suppressing his excitement and trying to appear as calm as Chi. He looked forward to the deepest level of communication with Chi after the wedding. Perhaps this idea had been rooted in his mind from the first time he saw Chi. He just had enough patience to wait. Swish, swish, swish. He signed his name on the document with the new signature pen and stamped it with the latest magic anti-counterfeiting label. Liszt signaled the secretary to send the document to the outer pavilion. He leaned back in his chair and turned around to face the window of the study. Looking out from here, he could see the entire Fire Kingdom. The triumphal arch in the center of the kingdom was particularly conspicuous. On top of it there was a huge statue of him. Unlike other kings, his authority could be seen everywhere in the Fire Kingdom. Rather than a knight system, it was more like a semi-feudal and semi-centralized system. His authority not only covered the immediate territories, but also extended to the territories of the feudal nobles. He had absolute jurisdiction in taxation, law, and education. The war machine of the kingdom is already operating at high speed. The assembly and training of the orders of chivalry are in full swing. Bard has also basically completed the exploration of the natural nodes in the Eagle Kingdom. After my wedding with Chi, it will be the real beginning of the dragon-slaying battle. Other than the normal dragon riding training, Liszt devoted most of his time to the wedding preparations. Chi had to hurry to crack the mystery of the moon teleportation array, so the wedding preparations had to be undertaken by Liszt. Of course, more of it was the joint preparation of the outer pavilion, the cabinet, and the internal court. He was mainly responsible for nodding and shaking his head, and then receiving the gifts from the nobles. He had thought that at this moment the three kingdoms would not send gifts. Unexpectedly, although the three kingdoms did not send gifts, the duchies sent gifts in secret. Your Majesty, this is the list of gifts secretly sent by the Grand Duchy of Rose. Please check. The secretary handed over a list with a long list of densely packed records. The most eye-catching ones were the Red Dragon Water and the Platinum Magic Potion. There was a huge batch of each. The Red and White Rose family is still so generous. After I destroy the Iron and Steel Ridge Kingdom, allow the Grand Duchy of Rose to exist as my vassal state. He made a decision in his heart. He had a good impression of Mashu, the prince who liked to use money and magic potions. Then the secretary handed over another list. Your Majesty, this is the list of gifts secretly sent by the Chrysoberyl Duchy. Please check them. The Gold Emerald Duchy was a vassal state of the Eagle Kingdom. There was a gold emerald dragon in the country, but the king was not a dragon knight. Liszt glanced at it and immediately frowned. Flower, animal skins, and a bunch of gemstones. Are these my wedding gifts, or are you trying to embarrass me? He threw the list away. The Chrysoberyl Duchy could choose not to send gifts, but if they did send gifts, they couldn't be too shabby. This wasn't communication, it was mockery. There's no need for the Chrysoberyl Duchy to exist anymore. After a while, he read the list of gifts sent by the 6 vassal states. According to the value, 2 of the duchies could be kept appropriately, and the other 4 were no longer necessary. As for the duchies that did not send gifts, they were also classified as unnecessary. Has the gift from the royal family of Yellowstone Plain arrived yet? Your Majesty, it has not yet been received. What about the gift from the Snowstorm Duchy? I just connected with Realgar City through the magic platform. The gift from the Snowstorm Duchy has just passed through the magic gate of Realgar City and arrived in Jade City. The gift list has not been sent yet. List nodded. The gifts from the nobles in the country, according to their titles and territories. You and the secretaries have to carefully compare them, arrange them in an order, and then give them to me. Do you understand? As you wish, Your Majesty. After the secretary left, another secretary knocked on the door and came in. Your Majesty, Her Highness Emily is asking to see you. Ask her to come in. Soon Emily came into the study and said to the secretary, You can leave first. Yes, Your Highness. The secretary took his leave. Emily quickly walked in front of Liszt and solemnly greeted him. Although the 2 were lovers, she still strictly followed the etiquette a follower should have towards their lord. It's been a while since I last saw you, Emily. How's Hippolytus studies? Liszt asked with a smile. Sister Hippolyta studies very hard. With Aowen's guidance, I only need to give her some pointers. Her battle prowess is currently skyrocketing, but she still needs to put in more effort to become a perfect dragon knight. I was going to ask her to come with me, but she refused. It seems that my wedding with Achi had some effect on her. She's still young, Your Majesty. She'll accept this after she gets some time to relax. She walked over and slowly sat on Liszt's lap. Your Majesty, even Hippolyta and I, the Dragon Knight, have to look up to your nobility. Only Lady Achi is the most suitable candidate for the throne. Don't undervalue yourself. It's just that Achi and I got to know each other first. Liszt stroked Emily's hair. In fact, the first person he got to know was Paris. However, there were some words that didn't matter if they were true or not. It was fine as long as they sounded nice. His Majesty and Her Excellency Achi's wedding, I'm a little troubled, I don't know how to prepare a gift. Emily said as she leaned on Liszt's chest. You know Achi's personality. She doesn't care what gifts you give her. As for me, do you need gifts to maintain our relationship? Don't worry. Just leave it to your butler. Emily was a marquise of Jadestone City, and she had her own castle. There was a butler in the castle, as well as a group of knight followers to manage the territory for her. She listened to Liszt's heartbeat and replied, yes. The wedding was held as scheduled on June 1st. A grand celebration was held in Fire Kingdom. People sang and danced to celebrate His Majesty's marriage to the noble and pure queen. The real wedding ceremony was held in the Palace of Stars on Sunday. Only the ambassadors of various countries and great nobles could watch. As a spirit of the sea, Achi didn't have a family. To make up for this, Liszt personally asked the dragon to send the 7 mermaids from the sea. The mermaids couldn't go ashore, but they could stay in a large artificial lake in Sun Moon Valley. A red carpet extended from the artificial lake to the magic elevator of the Palace of Stars and Sun Moon. When the auspicious moment arrived, the great nobles and a few civilian representatives standing on both sides of the red carpet stared eagerly at the calm lake. The band played a cheerful wedding march. Suddenly, the calm lake split from the center, and a staircase made of water appeared step by step. The 6 mermaids swam to the 2 sides of the staircase and gently waved their hands, condensing beautiful water sculptures to decorate the staircase. A moment later, at the climax of the first part of the wedding march, the 7th mermaid appeared. On her shoulder stood the petite Aroid's Truth, who was dressed in a pure white wedding gown and had an indescribably noble and beautiful appearance. Gently, Achi stepped onto the water staircase from the mermaid's shoulder. At that moment, the arcanists hiding around the lake quickly cast the magic they had prepared, and the entire sky exploded with countless colorful magic flowers. Achi, who was walking on the water, became the only focus in Sun Moon Valley, so noble that one couldn't look at her directly. 9 Heaven's Divine Emperor. Chapter 1133. When the noble and unattainable Achi from the artificial lake along the water steps, step by step on the red carpet. A silhouette flashed across the sky, and the one-horned Charlie flew over from the void, protecting Achi with every step. In front of the red carpet, List was waiting for Achi with a smile on his face. Under everyone's gaze, Achi quickly walked in front of List. She responded with a smile. Suddenly, the magic flowers in the sky and the potted flowers on both sides of the red carpet seemed to disappear at the same time. Only Achi's smile was especially bright. Big brother. List stepped forward and held Achi's slender little hand. Achi. Roar. Roar. Wuxia. The dragon's voice sounded from Mount Moon and Mount Sunday. The lion Nimia also roared near Sun Moon Valley, celebrating this sacred and solemn moment. List and Achi held hands and walked down the long red carpet together. They boarded the magic elevator and went straight to the Palace of Stars. Li William personally presided over the wedding ceremony and read the wedding vows. Flame Calendar Year 2 June 1st. With the glory of the night and the divine power granted to me by the truth of magic, I declare that List Flame and Achi Royd's truth are husband and wife. Clatter. Thunderous applause. The nobles and commoners who rushed to the palace clapped their hands crazily. Under the witness of his relatives and followers, List took the ring from the flower girl. It was a space ring made of space gems. He wore one for Achi and Achi wore one for him. Thus the wedding ceremony ended. There were no overly complicated procedures. There was also no exchange of gifts between grand nobles. He and Achi were originally a family. Now he just wanted Achi to have a legal status. However, the wedding scene was grand enough, especially with the participation of the unicorn, lion Nimia, and dragon. It was like hiring a Rolls-Royce to pick up the bride in a wedding in China. It was too dazzling. At the wedding banquet, Achi did not show up again. She had always disliked such lively occasions. Brother, is it okay for Achi to do this? What's not good about it? I have the final say in the rules of the Fire Kingdom. You are my dearest Achi. If you don't like the rules, just pretend that they don't exist. List kissed Achi on the forehead and then walked out of the room. He still had to go out to socialize. Holding his wine glass, he would take a sip whenever a noble came up to him to propose a toast. List, my great king, your life is finally complete. Grandmother is proud of you. May you and List grow old hand in hand and never leave each other. Madame Penelope hugged List and said emotionally, "Thank you for your blessing, grandmother. I will." Cousin Miopal Longtaro and the former princess of the Sapphire Duchy, Angela Sapphire, walked over together with glasses. Your Majesty, you know that I, Levis and Elvira have been waiting for this day for a long time. He raised his glass high to show his respect. Levis husband and wife and Elvira husband and wife also raised their glasses. The recently married Lytton was also standing on the side with his wife. However, he was not familiar with Miopal. List raised his glass in response and said, "We will eventually move towards marriage. Miopal, Levis, Elvira, and Lytton, thank you for attending my wedding." The last of the last. Li William also raised his glass and walked to a corner with List. "List, you are my king and my son. I watched you grow up, watched you become a king, and now I also watched you enter marriage and have your own wife. I will continue to watch the Fire Kingdom develop and grow in your hands. Father, you will soon see the growing Fire Kingdom. Be good to Achi. No one will cherish Achi more than I do." The clamor in the palace only ended in the evening. After a tiring day, List took a comfortable bath. When night fell, he returned to the king's bedchamber full of expectations. He signaled the servants around the bedchamber to leave. He went inside alone. Achi had already changed into a normal set of home clothes and was earnestly reading a magic book. However, her slightly trembling hands betrayed the restlessness in her heart. Achi, who was usually calm, couldn't remain indifferent in the face of the coming-of-age baptism. Achi. List walked to her side, stroked Achi's beautiful blue hair with his palm, and said in a gentle tone, "Now you are my queen." "Yeah." Achi calmly nodded. "Are you happy to marry my brother and be my wife?" "Achi is very happy, brother." "So, are you ready to have a deeper union with your brother?" List pulled Achi up, bent slightly and asked her face. His hot breath hit Achi's face, making her beautiful face blush, but her eyes were firm and tender as she looked at List. "Big brother, Achi is ready." The clothes at home were not bright, but on her body, it made her look outstanding. Hugging such a beautiful woman, List's heart even gave birth to a surreal trance. Once upon a time, he never thought that he would marry such a noble and pure siren as a wife. "With you, I have the whole world." He suddenly bent down and hugged Achi's waist. Her petite body seemed to be boneless, very light. The feeling of touch in his hands was particularly wonderful. Although it was not the first time he hugged Achi, his heart palpitated every time. The only difference was that this time he did not suppress the heat in his heart, but let it brew, ferment, and then erupt. Soft sheets, golden gauze canopy. He gently took off his gown. Suddenly, every trace of delicate and flawless texture on Achi's body was reflected in List's eyes, no longer covered by clothes or a hose. At this moment, it satisfied all of List's fantasies since he saw Achi. For the first time he really looked at everything about the siren inside and out and every detail. Heart to heart, beating strongly. Under the soft light, the solid bed made of rock wood trembled slightly. Everything was so wonderful and magical. List felt himself wrapped in endless warmth, exploring the end of the world. Again and again each time he enjoyed the sublimation of his soul and flesh. In the process of this constant effort, his soaring enthusiasm with the last sprint to the peak, was completely released, turned into a fire, turned into an arrow, burned everything. Boom. 3 days later. List, dressed in a king's dress, held Achi who was dressed in a queen's dress, and stood in the corridor of the highest floor of the Palace of Stars, Sun, Moon, and Palace. The golden sun rose from the east, covering the earth with a brilliant robe. He pointed to the endless land and said to Achi, "Do you see, Achi, this is my kingdom and yours. All the creatures, products, and even magic here belong to us. One day, and this day will come soon, the legendary continent, the Malfa continent, and all the seas will be ours." 9 Heaven's Divine Emperor. Chapter 1134. The wedding did not affect the Fire Kingdom's policy. On the 6th of June the weather was bright and sunny. Fu Hongyang could feel the power of fate surging around him. It's time for a mighty and intense dragon-slaying battle. I can feel that this dragon-slaying battle will be the first card to topple the dominoes. When this card is toppled, there will be no more obstacles for me to unify the northeast of the legendary continent. He rode the invisible dragon bard in high spirits. Achi smiled sweetly in his arms. As a magic shooter with a unicorn, her strength was enough to assist Fu Hongyang in completing any dragon-slaying battle. Behind him, they were Emily who was riding the light green gemstone dragon, Isin and Hippolyta who was riding the gray iron dragon Aon. There was also Marta the mountain copper dragon, Rise the royal sapphire dragon, and Gnome the bronze dragon. As for the underage water dragon Wouter, it was attached to List in the form of a totem. Aluminum dragon Connor stayed behind to guard the Fire Kingdom, while bone dragon Winnie was attached to List. Wuya. Bard sensed the dragon of the other party's patrol team. In the previous few encounters, Achi had secretly placed a space magic beacon on the other party's dragon. Due to the special nature of space, this kind of magic beacon was hard to destroy and could not be detected. Let's go. Under List's command, the mighty dragon riders were like sharks that smelled blood, quickly gathering and moving forward. A few hundred kilometers away, 7 dragons were in formation, patrolling the coastal waters of the Eagle Kingdom and the Iron and Steel Ridge Kingdom. Every dragon knight was equipped with a standard telescope. The telescope equipment could not be kept a secret for long. Rats had already stolen the manufacturing method. The Fire Kingdom has been sealed off by us for more than half a year. I thought that the young king would be frowning. I didn't expect him to hold a wedding at this time. It seems like he's living a good life. Zinc Dragon Knight Robert Holy Lance from the Blast Furnace Kingdom tried to find a topic to talk about. The Yellowstone Dragon Knight Tracy Crimson Blood Pelican said, "The blockade cannot strangle the Flame Kingdom. The Yellowstone Plains Kingdom is unwilling to cooperate," which gave List a chance to breathe. There was a hint of worry between his brows. As a Dragon Knight of the Eagle Kingdom, he had once encountered List in a dragon-slaying battle and felt List's strength. No matter how strong he is, he won't be able to jump around for long. The strangulation of our three-nation alliance is just a prelude. When the Dragon Knight of the Noble Frost Empire arrives with the ancient artifact, it will be the moment when List and his invisible dragon are completely destroyed. The Whiteheart Iron Dragon Knight, Odin Platinum, coldly snorted. He was a prince of the Steel Ridge Kingdom. The lead Dragon Knight, Warren Inverted Golden Clock, casually sighed. I didn't expect the Noble Frost Empire to never think of keeping the invisible dragon from the beginning. However, the existence of the Holy Dragon is not a good thing for the legendary continent. From the perspective of the kingdom, the Holy Dragon would destroy the balance. If the kingdom obtained the Holy Dragon, it would inevitably break the existing system and want to join the empire. This would inevitably violate the interests of the empire, so it would be destroyed. If the empire obtained the Holy Dragon, it would cause the other 2 empires to fight back crazily. It's a pity that we can't see the day when a holy dragon like the invisible dragon grows up. The Crimson Ruby Dragon Knight, Edward Crimson Ruby, sighed. He was the Grand Duke of the Crimson Ruby Grand Duchy, a vassal state of the Eagle Kingdom. He had successfully ridden his family's Crimson Ruby Dragon. 5 dragon knights flew side by side. In addition, there was also a silver dragon of the Eagle Kingdom and a light sapphire dragon of the Steel Ridge Kingdom. The 7 dragons flew with great momentum. When they swept across the sea, the fish in the deep sea could be seen. Some of them even fainted instantly as they were shocked by the powerful dragon power. And at this moment, the silver dragon suddenly let out a hurried roar. Roar! It then turned around and took a defensive stance towards the east of the sea. Sir Silver Dragon, what is this? Tracy inquired. Sir Silver Dragon must have discovered the Fire Kingdom's dragon aura. Dragon Orders of Chivalry's temporary leader, Odin, resolutely shouted, "Everyone be on guard and get ready. Let's see if the Fire Kingdom wants to cross the line." In the blink of an eye, the 7 dragons that were flying separately approached each other. 3 minutes later, Odin loudly said, "My Heart King also sensed the dragon aura, a very powerful dragon aura. It remembers this aura, it's the invisible dragon's aura. List has personally come, everyone be careful." Heart King was the name of his mount, the White Iron Dragon. He had confronted List in the naval battle of the Sapphire Duchy and remembered the invisible dragon bard's aura. How dare he? Is he going to start another dragon-slaying war? Instead of making love with that beautiful siren archmage in the palace, he actually appeared here. This King List really doesn't know how to enjoy life. Robert sneered. He was born in the Blast Furnace Castle and had never come into contact with List. Deep in his heart he wasn't very convinced. They were both Dragon Knight, but why was the Sacred Dragon Knight stronger? Moreover, it was an immature invisible dragon. Robert, when List appears, don't infuriate him. If a dragon-slaying war really breaks out, we might not be able to get the upper hand. Odin's expression was quite serious and his tone was equally cautious. You have never come into contact with List, so you don't know how terrifying he is. Such words made Tracy and Warren nod repeatedly. The two of them had experienced the fear of being dominated by List. Robert frowned, very annoyed that Odin was talking to him in such a tone. However, he wasn't someone who didn't know what was good for him. Having been a dragon knight for so many years, he was proud but not arrogant. Rest assured, Prince Odin, the Dragon Orders of Chivalry are under your control. I will follow your instructions. Odin nodded. Immediately after, he looked at the distant sky. After about a few minutes, he said heavily, "They're coming." Before his voice faded away, 6 small black dots suddenly appeared in the distant sky. The small black dots flew over at an extremely fast speed, gradually outlining the figures of 6 dragons and 3 dragon knight. It's a fire dragon, light emerald dragon, gray iron dragon, orichalcum dragon, bronze dragon and royal sapphire dragon. Tracy cried out in alarm. Warren added, "There's also the invisible dragon hiding in the surroundings." Odin raised his eyebrows and put down his binoculars. List is riding on the back of the fire dragon, not the invisible dragon. This time, it doesn't seem like he's going to start a dragon-slaying war. They had naturally studied List's fighting style. Basically, every time List entered the battlefield riding the invisible dragon. This time he was riding the fire dragon, perhaps to release some kind of signal. He waited until List and his party gradually approached to the point where they could communicate through the dragon's vocal cords. Then he suddenly asked, "King List, you have already crossed the sea demarcation line of the Eagle Kingdom. The 3 Kingdoms Alliance and the Flame Kingdom are hostile kingdoms. What is your purpose in coming here?" "My purpose in coming here," riding on the back of the fire dragon, List looked at the 7 dragons and 5 knights in front of him, who looked as if they were facing a great enemy. He said sternly, "The glory of the night has guided me. There are 4 dragons here that are fated with me." Chapter 1135. Shameless Boasting. There was no such line in the other world, but it came from the Zinc Dragon Knight, Robert's sacred spear, and could be replaced with shameless boasting. He looked at List, who was riding on the fire dragon's back and had a perfect combination of handsomeness and temperament. His tone was cold and disgusted. "King List, are you trying to start an all-out war with the Blast Furnace Kingdom, the Iron and Steel Ridge Kingdom and the Eagle Kingdom? Can the Fire Kingdom withstand the crushing of the 3 kingdoms?" With 7 dragons by his side, Robert had enough confidence to confront List verbally. List glanced at the Dragon Knight, who was about 40 or 50 years old, completely uninterested in his appearance. Instead, he was sizing up the zinc dragon. It was a beautiful dragon with light gray scales that flickered with a metallic luster. Its body was about 60 meters long. Robert's sacred spear? That's right, King List must know me well. Robert's lips curled. The zinc dragon and I weren't meant to be, but from the moment you said shameless boasting, the knight's glory guided me. It's faded with me. What? Robert didn't understand. List didn't waste any more words. He suddenly gestured for Bone Dragon Winnie to transform into bone dragon armor to cover his body, while his tail turned into a 10-meter-long bone dragon spear. At the same time, the Copper Dragon, Royal Sapphire Dragon, Bronze Dragon, Emily, and Hippolyta all received List's order through the Dragonheart Code: attack. The opposing side had 7 dragons and 5 dragon knights, while the other side had 6 dragons and 3 dragon knight, but their momentum wasn't weak at all. Moreover, Achi was riding Charlie and Invisible Dragon Bard were hiding in the material boundary, quietly lying in wait and ready to assassinate at any time. King List, what is the meaning of this? Odin Platinum roared. There was no response. List rode Fire Dragon Leo and became one with it, turning into a meteor that fell to the ground in a violent blaze, charging at Robert's sacred spear and the zinc dragon. Get into formation and face the enemy. Seeing this, Odin roared, King List, you are provoking the alliance between the 3 countries. Your every move will bring disaster to the Fire Kingdom. The Royal Sapphire Dragon's berserk magic swept across the sky. The silver dragon on the other side directly spat out dragon breath, and the silver metal torrent turned into rays that bloomed everywhere. It took the lead to meet List's side and rushed towards the Royal Sapphire Dragon. Foolish flame man. Robert rode his zinc dragon and charged toward List without the slightest bit of stage fright. Tracy Weeping Blood Pelican rode his yellow gemstone dragon towards the light green gemstone dragon and Emily, while Warren Upside Down Golden Clock rode his dragon to intercept Hippolyta and the Greymouth Iron Dragon. The light sapphire dragon quickly locked onto the bronze dragon and roared as it charged. Edward Crimson Ruby, on the other hand, rode the Crimson Ruby dragon and stood in front of Marta. Is the mana metal dragon really as powerful as the legends say? I seriously doubt it. Marta was furious and opened his mouth to spit out a golden dragon breath. The 12 dragons and Dragon Knight on both sides formed into pairs and began to fight. Only Odin Platinum watched the battlefield coldly from his white iron dragon. Everyone pay attention to the formation and don't spread out. Be on guard against the invisible dragon's sneak attack at any time. Since King List wants to fight, we will fight for him. However, before he could see the invisible dragon's assassination, the Zinc Dragon Knight, Robert Holy Lance, who had just brushed shoulders with List, suddenly let out half a miserable cry. The remaining half was still muffled, and in the next instant, his head was pierced by the bone dragon spear. The copious and berserk flame power directly burned his body to ashes. The zinc dragon let out a hoarse roar and fiercely collided with the fire dragon Leo. But the fire dragon Leo only twisted his body and swung his thick tail. Bang bang bang, the zinc dragon spun in midair. Then, before it could stabilize its body and find its direction, a bone dragon spear burning with flames pierced into its back like a rainbow piercing through the sun. List swept his cold gaze over and pulled out the bone dragon spear. He urged Leo to turn around and charge at the zinc dragon again. Robert, stop. Odin Platinum saw that Robert had died instantly and was furious. He urged the white iron dragon forward to save the zinc dragon. It didn't matter if the Dragon Knight died, but the dragon couldn't be stolen. But a crisp female voice suddenly sounded in his ears, shattering storm. Immediately after, the air in front of him rippled, and a white tornado instantly enveloped him and the white iron dragon. At this moment he discovered that the so-called tornado wasn't actually wind. Instead, it was space being torn apart by a powerful spell. The tiny cracks in space continuously sliced at the white iron dragon's scales. The white iron dragon let out a miserable cry, but at the same time, it quickly used its innate ability. Its many scales contracted tightly and wrapped Odin in the dragon tooth platform, resisting this powerful spatial magic. Before the shattering storm dissipated, the invisible dragon had already appeared from the material boundary. It opened its mouth and spat out white mist-like dragon breath. That was an even more violent spatial magic. It rushed into the shattering storm like a blender and quickly hit the white iron dragon, causing a huge wound to appear on its abdomen. The dragon's blood was sprinkled into the sea as if it was worthless. Odin, who was wrapped in scales, was already drenched in sweat. Taking advantage of the gap between the magic, he urged the white iron dragon to quickly escape while shouting loudly, "Retreat! Scatter and retreat! We are not a match for it. You can't escape." List urged Leo and attacked the zinc dragon 3 times in a row. It was as if a mountain was pressing down on it, directly injuring the zinc dragon. 3 bloody holes appeared, and the dragon's blood couldn't stop spurting out. The powerful metal dragon fell crookedly into the sea after the last hit. Ignoring the zinc dragon, List turned around and turned into a ball of flames with Leo, charging toward the silver dragon that was entangled with the royal sapphire dragon. This silver dragon was the symbol of the Eagle Kingdom, and it was a dragon that List had to take down on this trip to break the Eagle royal family's backbone. Lord Silver Dragon, run. Tracy dodged Emily's attack and tried to merge with the silver dragon. However, Emily urged the light green sapphire dragon to bite down on the yellow sapphire dragon, making it impossible for Tracy to escape and rescue the silver dragon. The silver dragon sensed danger. Its arrogant personality didn't allow it to turn around and escape. Instead, it suddenly became ruthless and unleashed its dragon magic. Ignoring the royal sapphire dragon's magic, it charged straight toward the fire dragon. Leo's dragon eyes flashed with a disdainful evil light. Now that it had reached adulthood and touched the stronghold, it had an unparalleled sense of superiority over any dragon. Seeing the silver dragon rushing toward it crazily, it signaled List not to activate the Dragon Knight secret manual but to rely on pure physical strength to compete with the silver dragon. List naturally wouldn't refuse. Now that his strength was beyond this world, he could show it however he wanted. Clang. The 2 dragons collided head-on. One was 100 meters long and the other was 50 meters. The absolute difference in size caused the silver dragon to be instantly broken from its sternum to its wings by Leo's powerful body. The silver dragon struggled to continue flying, but Leo didn't give it a chance. It was another display of real physical strength. All of it smashed on the silver dragon, breaking countless bones of the silver dragon, and smashing it into the sea. Suddenly, many whirlpools appeared on the surface of the sea. The water was like chains, entangling the struggling silver dragon and suffocating it in the water. Not far away, the zinc dragon floated quietly on the surface of the water. It had probably fainted. There were mermaids swimming around the zinc dragon. They were waiting for the other dragons to fall. Chapter 1136. The Dragon Knight Robert's sacred lance died, the zinc dragon fell into the sea followed by the silver dragon. In the blink of an eye, the dragon orders of chivalry suffered heavy losses. This was an outcome that no one had expected. Odin Platinum could only control his Whiteheart Iron Dragon and flee into the distance. He could no longer take care of the others and his dragon. Even he himself was scared witless. He couldn't resist the pincer attack of a Chi and the invisible dragon. No. Another scream echoed in the distance. Roar. The dragon's roar resounded through the clouds, and a huge bloody hole appeared on the yellow gem dragon's body. Dragon blood spurted out, and the Tracy blood pelican on its back was on the verge of collapsing. Its head had already exploded and it couldn't be more dead. Leo carried List, not even looking at the yellow gem dragon as it turned and flew towards the lead dragon Knight Warren inverted golden clock that was fighting Hippolyta in the distance. Ethan, you've always wanted to prove that you're not a weakling among the gem dragons, and now is the time to prove it. The yellow gem dragon can definitely escape. Emily held her spear and attacked frantically while the yellow gem dragon was still heavily injured by List. Roar. Ethan roared, spitting out dragon breath to restrict the yellow gem dragon's flight path. In a battle, it had been half crippled by the young fire dragon, List, and the newly advanced high mage Chi. It had almost died on Heart Island. This was a shadow that couldn't be erased from its proud dragon life. Only the blood of other dragons could wash away this humiliation. The yellow gem dragon let out a mournful cry and stopped fleeing. Its eyes showed that it was unafraid of death as it responded to Ethan and Emily with a surging dragon breath. Then, it completely disregarded its own defense and charged towards the light green gem dragon, wanting to perish together with it. You want to die with your dragon knight? Emily gripped her spear tightly and took a deep breath. Very well. I'll fulfill your wish. There are enough dragons in the kingdom, and the enchanting dragon soul fruit requires a new supply of dragon blood. And I'll use this opportunity to chase after his majesty. Asterisk boom. Asterisk the battle reached its climax in an instant. Dragon blood and mana intertwined as two figures, one yellow and one green, intertwined and rode a beautiful yet deadly waltz in the air. Asterisk. The gray-mouthed iron dragon Aoun's lower abdomen was slashed by the dragon spear. He twisted his body with all his might and waved his dragon tail to repel the lead dragon's attack. Hippolyta's forehead was covered in sweat and her hands were trembling. She was just a little girl who had just reached adulthood. She had not even perfected her do chi and her talent was not really top-notch. She was accidentally chosen by Orn to become a dragon knight and had only trained for a few months. The Dragon Knight's battle was too difficult for her. She couldn't resist the lead Dragon Knight's attack at all. Iron Dragon Knight was of Iron Hippolyta. Dragon on Dragon Knight and Dragon. Dragon was also. Every time the Dragon Knight used a Dragon Knight's secret manual, Hippolyta, it was very aggrieved during the battle. The lead Dragon Knight was especially experienced, and he could tell that Hippolyta, the Grey Iron Dragon Knight, was a rookie. Every time a Dragon Knight's secret manual appeared, it would go straight for Hippolyta. This made On even more exhausted from protecting Hippolyta, and he was even more at a disadvantage than when he was fighting alone. All of a sudden, the lead Dragon Knight executed a sudden thrust. While On's old strength was waning, the lead Dragon Knight suddenly unleashed a powerful secret manual of Dragon Battle Aura. The spear went straight for Hippolyta, intending to kill the immature female Dragon Knight with a single strike. Hippolyta wanted to dodge but could only barely steer On to the side. This undoubtedly put On under the attack of the Dragon Knight's spear. Warren's original intention was probably to feign an attack on her, but in reality he wanted to deal a heavy blow to On. On roar. Man and dragon communicated in an instant. On used his body to block the spear's attack and protect Hippolyta. However, at this moment, a cold voice exploded in the air. Warren, you're courting death. It was List who had rushed over on Leo's back. He used the bone dragon spear as a throwing weapon and threw it with all his might. The bone dragon spear instantly turned into a streak of white light, wrapped in burning flames as it shot towards Warren like a meteor. Warren's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly blocked the attack with his spear. Clang. The bone dragon spear left List's Dragon Battle Aura and was sent flying by Warren, falling towards the sea. On, take Hippolyta and hide. Leave this to me. List communicated with On using the Dragon Heart code, and immediately stood in front of the lead Dragon Knight. Your Majesty. Hippolyta panted with lingering fear. She looked at List's back, almost falling into a daze. On did not have the time to be infatuated, and immediately took Hippolyta to hide in a corner. Having sparred with Leo, he knew how powerful the Fire Dragon Knight was. Warren was initially shocked by the flying bone dragon spear, but when he regained his senses, he suddenly saw that List no longer had a spear in his hand. This is my chance. His eyes immediately lit up. He controlled the lead dragon to unleash his most powerful Dragon Battle Aura and charged towards the Fire Dragon. List, you will pay with your life for your carelessness. However, just as he was halfway through unleashing the Dragon Battle Aura, his glowing eyes immediately dilated, and a chill rushed from his tailbone to his brain. In the blink of an eye, the blue light in List's hand was absorbed, and a 10-meter-long dragon spear materialized. This was no longer the bone dragon spear, nor was it made of other magical metals or alloys. Instead, it was the water dragon spear. The little water dragon Warren had yet to mature and had little combat power, but the water dragon spear it formed was still stronger than any other dragon spear. Incinerate the heavens and boil the seas. List shouted coldly, instantly infusing the water dragon spear with powerful mixed magical energy. Like a shooting star, it streaked across the sky, piercing towards Warren, who was on the lead dragon's back at a speed faster than the human eye could see. No. Warren retracted his dragon spear in fright to block. Thump. The dragon spear was smashed by the water dragon spear, but it did not have any effect at all as it broke in the middle. Then the water dragon spear continued onward, smashing into Warren's chest. A mouthful of blood spurted out, but it was evaporated by the high temperature of the flames. Warren's chest rapidly shriveled up and broke apart. His charred upper body was sent flying, while his lower body was still riding on the Dragonfang platform. Roar! 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 The lead dragon howled in grief, but he did not have the courage to take revenge. Even a proud dragon would choose to flee in the face of overwhelming power. List did not immediately give chase. Instead, he turned to look at the nearby Grey Iron Dragon and Hippolyta. Your Majesty. Hippolyta's eyes twinkled with little stars as he cheered excitedly. Hippolyta, you need more training. Go and chase after the lead dragon with Orn. It's best if you can make it stay. As you wish. Hippolyta quickly rode on the gray iron dragon and chased after the lead dragon. Liszt cracked his neck and communicated with Leo through the spirit as one. "How are you, Leo? Are you tired? Can you still fight?" There was no problem continuing to fight. A fire dragon that was half a step away from Stronghold could not be compared to ordinary dragons. Liszt looked around. Emily had already beaten the lead dragon to the brink of death. Chi and Bard were chasing after Odin Platinum, the mountain copper dragon Marta was fighting Edward Crimson alone and had the upper hand, and the bronze dragon Nam and the light sapphire dragon were locked in a stalemate. The royal sapphire dragon Rise was using magic to cut up the battlefield, not giving the dragons and Dragon Knight a chance to escape. The light sapphire dragon is a dragon of the Steel Ridge Kingdom, and the white heart iron dragon Knight Odin is the prince of the Steel Ridge Kingdom. He quickly locked onto his target. "Leo, let's go capture the Crimson Stone Dragon and destroy the Eagle Kingdom." 11_11622/ Chapter 1137. It was no surprise that Edward Crimson could not even defeat Marta the Orichalcum Knight, let alone Liszt, a half-step Stronghold Knight. However, the real surprise was that when Edward saw Liszt rushing over, he immediately surrendered. "King Liszt, I am willing to submit to you." "Surrender? I don't need to surrender." Liszt coldly refused. "I'm willing to submit to you like the Grey Iron Duke Piero Grey Iron, and lead the Crimson Ruby family to submit to the Fire Kingdom. I've already reached an agreement with Red Reverend. I'll part ways with him peacefully. As for whether Red Reverend will become the Dragon of the Fire Kingdom, I'll need your Majesty to personally communicate with him." With that, he got up and left the Scarlet Gem Dragon's Dragon Tooth platform. The Crimson Ruby Dragon looked up to the sky and let out a long roar. Its voice was filled with grief and indignation. No one knew if it was because its knight was so useless, or because it could not maintain its pride as a dragon, or perhaps it was both. Can a dragon and a dragon knight be separated normally? Liszt's eyes showed a hint of curiosity. "I don't know, but your Majesty, since you've been able to ride a dragon so many times, I believe that you must have some tricks up your sleeve. Even if I'm severely injured or even killed in the process, it doesn't matter. I'm not afraid of death, I just hope that my death will be more valuable. The Eagle Kingdom is destined to be destroyed, and the Crimson Ruby family needs to follow a new king. I can't tell if what you said is true or false, but this proposal is very interesting, so I agree." His strength gave Liszt real confidence. He was not afraid of Edward playing any tricks. "I'm going to clean up the battlefield. You and the Scarlet Stone Dragon will follow me." "Yes, your Majesty." Edward sat cross-legged on the back of the Crimson Gem Dragon. Liszt turned around and smiled. No matter how dignified Edward's words were, it was impossible to erase his cowardly behavior for the sake of the family's interests. The Crimson Gemstone Dragon was also despised. Perhaps all dragons were arrogant, but there was a limit to their arrogance. Humans and dragons influenced each other, and no one could guarantee that they would not fall. For example, if it was someone else riding Fire Dragon Leo, they would probably be corrupted by Leo's evil thoughts and become an evil murderer. Of course, all of these were no longer important. As a man who was destined to rule the legendary continent, he knew what it meant to be inclusive. As long as they did not touch the roots of the social system, they would always need the nobles to maintain their own rule. It didn't matter if the Crimson Ruby Dragon accepted it or if the Crimson Ruby family submitted. It was all to provide sufficient tax revenue for themselves. When he unified the alliance of the three empires, he would have to face the three empires. He would need a sufficient number of knights to maintain his rule and produce resources. Boom. Roar. With a sorrowful dragon roar, the yellow gem dragon in the distance chose to unleash its final attack. While the light green gem dragon was heavily injured, it also fell into the sea. The mermaid released her magic and wrapped its body to prevent the loss of magic power. The white heart iron dragon knight, Odin Platinum, fled frantically with the light sapphire dragon. After receiving a signal from Liszt, Chi gave up the chase. She rode Charlie the unicorn and together with the other dragons, they helped Hippolyta defeat the fleeing lead dragons. At this point, in a sudden dragon-slaying battle, 3 Dragon Knight, Tracy Blood-Crying Pelican, Warren Inverted Golden Bell, and Robert Sacred Lance died in battle. The lead, silver, and zinc dragons were all captured. The yellow gem dragon fell completely, and the Crimson Ruby Dragon Knight, Edward Crimson Ruby, surrendered. This was the end. 4 dragons, I need to use up 4 enchanting dragon soul fruits. Just nice, after the death of the yellow gem dragon, I can nurture 4 more enchanting dragon soul fruits. I wonder if there are any dragons that can complete a spiritual battle without using the enchanting dragon soul fruits? Unless I use extreme measures, it's highly unlikely. These dragons were not one-handed dragons in their infancy. They had long been branded with spiritual imprints. Without the power of the enchanting dragon soul fruits, it would be very difficult to erase the spiritual imprint of the first-generation Dragon Knight. Back then, the light green gem dragon Ethan was the only dragon that did not use the enchanting dragon soul fruits to complete a spiritual battle. However, at that time, the emerald dragon leg had been absorbing Ethan's flesh and soul to barely complete it. Unless List continued to treat the lead, silver, and zinc dragons so inhumanely, it would be impossible. Forget it. Not only will it deepen the dragon's hatred for me, it will also greatly damage their vitality. Now is the time when I need to snowball. The sooner they become a force to be reckoned with, the better. And with the emerald dragon leg, it's inevitable that there will be dragons that die in battle in the future to nurture the enchanting dragon's soul fruits. Using battle to nurture battle, the enchanting dragon's soul fruits barely sufficed. Watching the sea that had regained its calm, List closed his eyes to sense it. The power of destiny around him was growing thicker and thicker, giving him a feeling of dominance. It was as if the power of destiny was no longer guiding him, but he had begun to dominate it. The future is already blurred, but this blurriness is not caused by the weakening of the power of destiny. On the contrary, the power of destiny is getting stronger and stronger, allowing me to write my own future. Sai, what kind of immense power of destiny did the smoke dragon at the stronghold level in the early years control? A thought suddenly came to his mind. In the battle between the holy dragon and the demonic dragon, will the smoke dragon be deeply affected by the power of destiny and betray the humans of this planet, leading to the invasion of the moon dragon? Or will the smoke dragon sense something from the power of destiny and resolutely go to the moon? In his heart, he still felt that he should not be an evil existence, and the smoke dragon should not be the embodiment of evil. He still had doubts about the contents of the murals on Mount Muragadan. He shook his head. He did not think about it anymore. Now was the time to count the results of the battle and celebrate the harvest. On this day, this dragon-slaying battle would definitely resound in the northeast corner of the legendary continent. All the nobles and knight would be talking about this battle. They would also think about what would happen in the future. The first place to start was the Fire Kingdom. Long live His Majesty the King. The great king has returned in triumph with the spoils of war from the 4 dragons and the captured Dragon Knight. Her Highness Emily has killed the yellow gem dragon. Her Highness Hippolyta has defeated the lead dragon. His Majesty the King is more powerful than all the Dragon Knight combined. His strength is already unfathomable and boundless. He is bound to rule the entire legendary continent. When the lead dragon, zinc dragon, and silver dragon were sent to the Sun-Moon Valley behind the Fire Kingdom, when the fire dragon pulled the corpse of the yellow gem dragon across the sky, and when the dragons returned to Mount Sun and Mount Moon, the entire Fire Kingdom was in an uproar. The nobles and commoners rushed to the streets to celebrate. The news spread like a shock wave to all the cities of the Fire Kingdom. The officials in the administrative offices and the nobles in the manors were all crazy about King List's great battle achievements. Every time, His Majesty the King will defeat even more Dragon Knight. In the sky, on land, and in the sea, His Majesty's glory is destined to spread everywhere. I deeply believe that it will start from the Flower Town. Marcus, the commander of the Black Horse Orders of Chivalry, raised his knight's longsword high. He faced the Orders of Chivalry who were lined up to take the oath to set off and shouted, "For His Majesty's glory, we pledge to charge to the death and trample on the eagles." Pledge to charge to the death. Trample on the eagles. The knights of the Black Horse Orders of Chivalry, under the leadership of Marcus, shouted their slogans wildly and headed for the Reed City's Magic Gate. They were about to set off for the Eagle Kingdom. After the dragon-slaying battle, the punishment order would be issued and resources would be plundered. Chapter 1138. The war didn't stop. Orders of chivalry from the Fire Kingdom came out in full force. They boarded the Iron Dragon warships and Fire Dragon merchant ships. With the help of the mermaids, they quickly rushed to the Eagle Kingdom. They didn't land immediately. The hinterland along the coast was barren and there were no resources to plunder. Therefore, these warships and merchant ships continued to be pushed by the mermaids. They went upstream along the famous rivers of the Eagle Kingdom and plundered the inland areas of the Eagle Kingdom. Basically, the big cities of the Eagle Kingdom were distributed along these rivers. The land that had been cultivated for many years was very fertile and rich in resources. There was no way to migrate to take refuge. The nobles here never thought that their fief would be attacked, and they were reluctant to leave their fief. However, in the face of the fierce orders of chivalry from the Fire Kingdom, they couldn't do much to resist. After all, there were dragons in the sky to protect these orders of chivalry. What? The people of the Fire Kingdom don't care at all. Aren't they afraid of the wrath of the royal family? Some nobles didn't know about the dragon-slaying war after the attack of the Fire Kingdom's orders of chivalry. Without the magic platform, they basically sent messages by letter. Unfortunately, the speed of sending letters couldn't be faster than the speed of the mermaids pushing the warships. When the orders of chivalry started to attack, these nobles were still enjoying themselves day and night, living a befuddled life. Therefore, without any surprise, they were easily defeated by the orders of chivalry from the Fire Kingdom, who rode on World of Warcraft and horses. The population, food, and elves were all captured. Be careful, don't knock or touch the elves. Marcus Will rode on the back of a Super Warcraft, Fire Raven. He flew close to the ground and supervised the knights looting. Remember the king's order. All the elves are to be distributed by the royal family. No one is allowed to hide anything. Elves. Beautiful elves. Marcus was very clear about List's love for elves. As the first confidant who followed List, he knew that List was different from any other nobles. He loved elves from the bottom of his heart. In the Fire Kingdom, abusing elves was a major offense. Killing elves was a crime that was comparable to killing a noble. His Majesty has over 10 dragons, his glory is comparable to the Emperor of the Empire. However, His Majesty only lacks elves, causing a pearl of the Fire Kingdom to be in darkness. Marcus jumped down from the back of the Fire Raven, his hands behind his back as he gazed at the castle that had just been breached. His heart was filled with lofty sentiments. As a member of the Burning Corps directly under His Majesty, I will definitely light up this pearl for His Majesty. He was very weak, only at the level of an elite Earth Knight. Even though he was now the Earl of Stormwind City and did not lack potions and World of Warcraft meat, he did not have the chance to become a Sky Knight. However, Marcus was very content. Once upon a time, his dream in life was to become a noble, the lowest rank of Lord Knight. But now he was an Earl. Everything I have was bestowed upon me by His Majesty. The Wheel family can only forever follow the Flame family and become the Flame family's apostle. Only then can we repay the glory bestowed upon us by His Majesty. In his heart, he already had a thought. After this war, with His Majesty's approval, I will change my family's surname to Flame Apostle. The world has changed, the world has changed. An earl stood in his own castle, looking at the fire dragon flag hanging in the distance and the surging orders of chivalry as he muttered to himself. He held a letter in his hand. It was a letter sent by his elder brother, who was an official in King's City, through the 100,000-mile express mail and World of Warcraft. There was not much content in the letter. There were only a few sentences. The Flame Kingdom has invaded. The Dragon Knight Patrol Group has suffered a crushing defeat. Tracy and Warren have fallen. The Silver Dragon, Yellow Gem Dragon, and Lead Dragon have been stolen. The Ruby Gem Dragon and Edward have been captured. The Eagle Royal family is in danger. Morning Glory family, prepare yourselves. The Earl crumpled the letter into a ball and sighed dejectedly. Prepare yourselves, prepare yourselves. My brother, what preparations do you expect me to make? My lord, the enemy is attacking. Please give the order. The orders of chivalry knelt on one knee and said anxiously. The Earl closed his eyes and did not say a word until the knight around him urged him again and again. Then he said dejectedly, Labrador, open the castle gate and hang the white flag. After saying that, the Earl felt the battle energy in his body disappear. Ever since he became a Sky Knight, he had never felt so powerless. My lord! My lord! My lord! The knights panicked. We swear to defend the Morning Glory Castle with our lives. No need. This is the Knight of the Flame Kingdom. No one can stop the Holy Dragon Knight. He will come to this land sooner or later. The Morning Glory family can only change their banner. The Earl turned around and stomped down the stairs. Butler, help me change my clothes. I want to leave the city and surrender. Bang, bang, bang. In the Iron Dragon Chain Palace, Adonis Moonlight Silver of the Eagle Kingdom smashed the crystal utensils all over the ground and roared to vent his anger. What? Impossible. My dragon, my kingdom. He crushed a delicate crystal wine glass. The broken crystal shards pierced his palm and blood flowed out. List, how dare you treat me like this? You sapphire fly, I should have crushed you to death. I can't accept this, my dragon. Adonis, the ministers are waiting for you to preside over the meeting. The queen walked in silently. Get out, get them all out. What do they want to do? Laugh at me and then try to curry favor with the fly king on the sea? Adonis scolded. Do they think I don't know what they are planning? The eagle kingdom is finished. Why don't they go and curry favor with the new master? The queen shouted, Adonis, you must calm down. The eagle kingdom is not finished yet. How can I calm down? Adonis looked at the queen coldly. When I inherited the throne, there were 11 dragons. Now there are only 3 left. 2 white iron dragons and 1 brass dragon. Tell me, how should I rule the eagle kingdom? The glory of the eagle royal family has been completely stripped away and turned into a clown. Adonis' words left the queen speechless. The royal family ruled the kingdom not by political means or wealth, but by the dragons. Only dragons could stabilize the kingdom, show its glory, and rule over the vast territory. The eagle royal family originally had 11 dragons, but they were dead or robbed. Only 3 dragons were left. They were no longer qualified to call themselves a kingdom. After a moment of silence, the queen forced herself to calm down and said, Adonis, we are in a very difficult situation now, but we have to do something. The Moonlight Silver family and the White Iron family must continue to exist. Discuss this with the ministers and Prince Alex. His opinion is very important. Adonis sat down on the chair. What is there to discuss? I don't want to see anyone. I'm already a joke as a king. But you have to see them. Even if not as a king, you have to, as a dragon-rearing family. Try to fight for the few remaining benefits. The queen showed a terrifying calmness. Not only do you have to talk to the ministers and Alex, but you also have to talk to the Iron Ridge, the Blast Furnace Castle, and even... Humph. When Adonis heard List's name, his eyes instantly widened. The fire of hatred burned. I will not negotiate with the sapphire fly. Chapter 1139. Your Majesty, it is imperative to negotiate with the Fire Kingdom. When Prince Alex arrived at the palace, the first thing he said to Adonis was to persuade him to negotiate with List. Why, Alex? Do you want to laugh at me too? Your surname is Moonlight Silver, and mine is White Iron. But we are both from the Eagle Royal family. What's the difference between your joke and mine? Alex looked at the Eagle King, who seemed to have aged 20 years in an instant, and sighed helplessly. I never thought highly of the Three-Nation Alliance. But you voted in favor of the Three Kingdoms Alliance, Roland said. That's right, Alex said frankly. Although I don't believe that the Three-Nation Alliance can really kill the Fire Kingdom or the growth of List, if we don't work hard, we can't just watch the Eagle Kingdom be slowly devoured by the Fire Kingdom. Now that the Dragon Orders of Chivalry have failed, the Three-Nation Alliance is meaningless. We need to face reality. Adonis was silent for a while and said dejectedly, What kind of reality? List has become the most powerful Dragon Knight in the northeast of the legendary continent. No, he should be the most powerful Dragon Knight in the legendary continent. I don't know how strong he is, but from the way he killed Dragon Knights so easily, he has far surpassed the Dragon Knight in the perfect period. Moreover, he didn't ride on an invisible dragon to fight, but a fire dragon. Emperor Jupiter also has an elemental dragon and a dark dragon. It's different. I asked the messenger of the noble Frost Empire. The elemental dragon is indeed strong, but it is at the level of the magic metal dragon and the royal sapphire dragon. The fire dragon might be slightly stronger. List's strength is not just because of the elemental dragon. I don't understand what you're saying, Alex. I'm not a dragon knight, but isn't the dragon knight the pinnacle of strength? If the dragon knight is really the pinnacle, our country wouldn't have lost so many dragon knights. Alex shook his head. I also don't want to believe that there is a stronger existence than the Dragon Knight. But the Holy Dragon has already appeared, why can't a stronger knight be born? Images of his interactions with List flashed through his mind. Even though List was handsome, elegant, noble, and extraordinary, as if he was born to be great. However, no matter how outstanding his appearance was, he did not dare or want to believe that List's strength was beyond his knowledge. However, there was nothing he could do even if he didn't believe it. The Dragon Knight patrol team was annihilated right before his eyes. Prince Odin, who was fleeing in panic, had personally described how terrifying List was. 3 shots could kill a Dragon Knight and 2 hits could subdue a giant dragon. Unimaginable strength. Adonis looked at Alex, holding on to the last shred of hope, and asked, Duke Buffett of the Noble Frost Empire will bring an ancient artifact to assist the alliance of the three empires. Alex, perhaps I haven't lost yet, and the Eagle Kingdom hasn't lost yet. Duke Buffett is just a dragon knight. Even if he has an ancient artifact, how can he defeat List, who is stronger than the Dragon Knight? Even if he can defeat List and stop the development of the Fire Kingdom, there are no dragons in the Eagle Kingdom. He paused. He walked forward and patted Adonis' shoulder. The current situation is not your fault. If it were anyone else, it would be difficult to change the current situation. His words of comfort were full of bitterness, and there was a sense of helplessness in it. Not to mention Adonis, even if he was the king of the Blast Furnace Castle or the Iron and Steel Ridge, what could he do? The Eagle Kingdom was just one step ahead. In the face of the aggressive Fire Kingdom, Alex clearly realized that the alliance of the three empires was like the weak comforting each other, like World of Warcraft standing in front of the giant dragon, hugging each other for warmth. Suddenly, he took a deep breath and said in an unquestionable tone, "Your Majesty, I know this is very difficult, but I still hope that you, as the king of the Eagle Kingdom, will preside over the last meeting and discuss the future of the kingdom with the ministers so that we can survive the current crisis." What? Adonis smiled miserably. After this meeting, will I leave my throne? Not leave the throne, but the throne of the Eagle Kingdom may become the seat of an ordinary Grand Duke. The ministers of the Eagle Kingdom are actually discussing the surrender of the Fire Kingdom. When he received the news, List was coming down from the Silver Dragon's Dragon Tooth platform. The Silver Dragon, who was lying in the Sun Moon Valley, had a complicated expression in his eyes, but he did not make a sound. "Your Majesty, the Blood Servants are closely monitoring the contents of the ministers' meeting. If there is any new development, I will report to you immediately," Mary Dawn Daybreak said respectfully. "Well, closely monitor every move of the Eagle Kingdom. At the same time, don't forget the Iron and Steel Ridge and the Blast Furnace Castle Kingdom. How will King Osborne and King Helder react when they hear the news?" He touched the beautiful scales of the Silver Dragon and laughed. "That must be a very interesting scene." "As you wish, Your Majesty." Mary left. List looked at the Silver Dragon and said lightly, "I know that you are the Silver Dragon raised by the Eagle Kingdom, the symbol of the eagle, but now you are the Dragon of the Fire Kingdom. While I am swallowing the Eagle Kingdom, you can rest and recuperate. In the future, you and I will face the Blast Furnace Castle and the Iron and Steel Ridge together." Off. The Silver Dragon panted heavily. He did not say anything, but this was already a kind of expression. After leaving Sun Moon Valley, List let out a heavy sigh. "I thought that I could save some of the mystical dragon soul fruit by controlling fate. In the end, even the Crimson Gem Dragon's soul battle required the help of the mystical dragon soul fruit to erase the first-generation Dragon Knight soul brand. Half of it was a sigh for the loss of the dragon soul fruit, and the other half was because he did not control fate as smoothly as he had imagined. The Silver Dragon, Lead Dragon, Zinc Dragon, and Crimson Gem Dragon had successfully completed the soul battle with the help of the Dragon Soul Fruit and became his giant dragons. In addition to the previous Fire Dragon, Light Green Gem Dragon, Invisible Dragon, Grey Iron Dragon, Orichalcum Dragon, Royal Sapphire Dragon, Water Dragon, Aluminum Dragon, Bone Dragon and Bronze Dragon, the Fire Kingdom now had 14 dragons. It had surpassed the Iron and Steel Ridge Kingdom and became the kingdom with the most dragons in the northeast of the legendary continent. Let's first digest the Eagle Kingdom. The jubilant matters could be put aside. Ever since the mighty dragon-slaying battle on the coastline, the Fire Kingdom had won a great victory. List's reputation spread like the wind throughout the northeast of the legendary continent. This caused a huge upheaval, especially among the nobles of the Eagle Kingdom. It was as if the pillars supporting the sky had collapsed. They were at a loss and did not know what to do. The vassal states of the Eagle Kingdom, except for the Crimson Gem Grand Duchy, all sent envoys to the Fire Kingdom to secretly pay tribute. They hoped to become the vassal states of the Fire Kingdom and follow behind List. "Your Majesty, what arrangements do you have for the tributes from these vassal states?" Lee William asked. "Do they want to follow me now?" List glanced at the teacup on the table. "Why didn't you take action earlier? The outer court should draft a plan and formulate a tax collection plan that can be accepted by the vassal states. They can get temporary asylum after paying taxes to our kingdom." He paused for a while, picked up the teacup and took a sip of fresh green tea. He said, "Wait until I have reorganized the Eagle Kingdom, then we can talk about the vassal states following me." You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.